Thank you so much for joining. So I'm sharing my screen, and thank you for joining for this session, deep dive session for security control 40,000-1-4. And I will be leading this meeting with Lucia, and I will go straight with the presentation. Do you want to share some initial word, Lucia, and we can start?
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session today. During this deep dive session, we will introduce you to the current state of the draft standard on the security controls, and we will walk you through section by section with the possibility to get your feedback. So there will be some questions and some online polls that you can fulfill. And also there is a possibility to ask your questions in the Q&A. And if there is something that you may need to clarify from the Q&A that you can type, we will ask you to raise your hand. And if the time allows, we will allow some people to participate and speak up. I want to share and say that I'm very grateful and thank you for everyone joining. We have over 500 participants. So that is in theory how we want to manage the workshop. If possible, let some of the people and participants raise their hands and speak. But if we see that there is a large number of participants that would like to do an intervention, we will focus on the Q&A and on the feedback that polls that Angelo has prepared. Just because from the practical perspective, this would be the most manageable way, considering that we have a lot of content to show you today and we have a limited amount of time as well, even though we will take all the afternoon. There is also something I wanted to mention about the webinar. The deep dive session is being recorded and the session will be made available in our website as well as the slides. And with that, Angelo, I will give you the floor and enjoy everyone your webinar.
Thank you so much. And Lucia, you can ping me if my connection is stable. So
everything seems perfect. Thank you.
That can be helpful. And so just on feedback. Thank you so much. So let's go in. So just a quick introduction of myself. I'm the rapporteur for PT2 and PT3, so generic security requirement 40,000-1-4, and for the vulnerability handling requirement -1-3. So this is just to have a little bit of a context. And I want just to make it sure that that is clear that the work that I'm doing is financed by under the umbrella of Stanford CR, that is a funding from the European Innovation Council and SME executive agency, and the whole project is called Stanford CR, where you can find not only the horizontal standard but also the vertical standard with a different funding program like Stanford CR 1, 2, and 3. And so this is the important message at the beginning. So today we are gonna, I will gonna set up the stage a little bit. I will not go down on the basic in details, but I want just to have a kind of high-level overview, and I will go fast until the section 3. The section that will take 3 hours almost is the 04 essential requirement, because there we will go requirement by requirement, and I will present all the content, the status of PT2 now, and I'm looking forward also to get your input with the survey, and we will have around 10-15 minutes by each section to cover, and let's go into the session now, and then there will be the conclusion with the annex attached. So let's set up the context. As every time I share where you can learn about CRA, and these are only some links that are here just because when you download the presentation later, it's easy and handy for you to select the resources where to start and where to go into the details. Into this second slide, I want just to highlight information from yesterday that the European Commission publish finally a draft Commission guidance on Cyber Resilience Act, and it's open for comment. So if you read it and then you have some concern, please raise your concern until the 31st of March. In the slide, I have the link, so this is handy. You can open the presentation, go to this link, and then you can read the guidance and make your comment, because it's important that we will have also the feedback from manufacturer. So now we have this slide is the slide that usually the European Commission is presenting, and is a kind of summary. I like it because it's condensed all the obligation from CRA in one slide, where you have the obligation from the manufacturer from having a risk assessment in place, have the product related essential requirement implemented, and then the vulnerability handling with all the part of the conformity assessment, and of course there is also the presence of the reporting obligation. I will not go into details. This is a story that we already heard many times, but it's nice for me to report it and so to have it as a reference in every presentation. I want just to put an highlight that this is an extract of Article 6, a requirement for product with digital element from CRA, and we will and you can see that you have that the part 1 annex 1 is a product requirement and is related to the product capability, and then you have the part 2 of annex 1, that is the vulnerability handling, that is focus oriented. Why I'm highlighting that, I will show you later the relation between PT1, PT2, and PT3, and then you can understand what is the relation between all these three standards. In this slide is just an overview of all the work that has been done in these months. The CRA work is a gigantic work, and is spread between CENELEC and ETSI, CENELEC and ETSI, and a lot of people they step up from manufacturer perspective and also rapporteur to take on this task. In this slide, I just summarize the activity from CENELEC with 40,000-1, -2, -3, and -4. The other, I didn't go into the details because some they don't have an ID. So and some, of course, you are very well aware that there is 62443 and others. And I also highlighted on the bottom you have all the verticals standard. The nice thing about the naming convention that ETSI took is a 304.6, and the last two number is the line number of the standardization request. And so this is easy to correlate then the standard with the standardization request and with the scope. I want just to highlight the interplay between the horizontal standard. So as you can see here, you have the relation between -1.2. -1.2 is the PT1, how it was called before having an official number. And of course, as everybody is aware, this PT1 is covering the security by design part, the risk assessment, the product life, so what is called total product life cycle or product life cycle, how we want to call it. Here you have all the goals that needs to be achieved, what are the mandatory and optional input, and what are the minimum expectation from process perspective. Another process standard that we all know is the 40,000-1-3, that is the part 2 of the CRA, and is covering the vulnerability handling. After you place the product on the market, you need to make sure that the product is secure, and you manage the updates, you manage the vulnerability, and so on. Of course, while you have these two process standards, you need also to go on a product level with the other standard. Project 2 is what we will speak, we will talk about today. So the 40,000-1-4. In this project, what I will present today will be a catalog of security control, but a catalog of security control per se is useless if you don't have the process in place. So you need to have a way to identify the risk, you need to have a way to understand what are the potential mitigation, and then PT2 is just a catalog of control that manufacturer can select to mitigate some of the risk, and will help through this process. I have another slide for that later, so we can go into the details in the coming on the next slide. This slide, this was produced recently and from the working group PT1 members, and as you can see, you will see the all the phases that are defined into the PT1, the 40,000-1-2, and you can see also what is the relation between the various phases, and you can see also how PT2 40,000-1-4 is collocated in the middle between the risk assessment and the definition of the security requirement, and so this is the connection and the bridge. And as you can see, is an entire ecosystem that you need to consider to have your product secure by default, and then make sure that you have a risk-based approach into the implementation of the security control. Many times I heard that there is a manufacturer that wants to implement all the requirements that are in PT2 or the annex, but that is not true, because you need to understand what is proportional compared to the risk profile of your product, and you need to consider also that you cannot implement blindly security control without justification. So I hope that this slide is also giving some more clarity and will be used as a reference. I want just to make sure to you that this slide is a work in progress. This will be the intention of this flow, and this model is to be integrated into PT1 40,000-1-2, and is a subject to change. But I wanted to give you at least an overview, and was for me an important message to share with all of you. This other slide is just summarizing what I expressed so far, so you will have it as a reference after the meeting to go into the details and to clarify your doubts on the relation between the standard. So I'm just going fast because these are things that are already digested, explained, so and I prepared this slide just to have it for you as a reference after the meeting, because the core of our conversation will be the essential requirement and the technical control. So let's go for the essential requirement. This is a slide that I presented also previously. I just reported here. I will not go into the details, but it's nice to have an overview of what does it mean, product with digital element, that covers remote data processing, the device, associated services, and so on. And then you have a kind of quick overview of what are the requirements like before. And this is for the essential requirement part 1, and then you have all the essential requirement for part 2 that are related to the vulnerability handling. Again, this is just for overview. We will not go into the details. Here I want to spend a little bit of more time because I heard there is a little bit of confusion and fragmentation into the market. And also an understanding that I want to clarify. With the standardization request mandate 606, so I highlighted the fact that the horizontal framework, so the PT2 work that we are doing, PT1 and PT3, they should provide a coherent or generic framework, a methodology for further specify the product specific standard. This, in a certain sense, didn't happen because the vertical standard, they were developed earlier, and then they are now under the HAS assessment, and some of them they already had comments to resolve, and PT2 had a little bit of slow progression because of the later date that is in end of 2027. And so, And I think that this creates a little bit of disconnection, but we need to find a way to reconnect and to make sure that this coherence is created for PT2 to integrate the common part of the vertical, and for the vertical to refer to PT2. And so this will be the nice approach that we want to carry out. So another part that I want to highlight is that there is also that CENELEC and EXI, while they are developing that work, should take into account what is in the Commission implementation decision of 2023-2444. This is another way to say that we needed to be aligned, or at least to use as a reference point the 18031 series standard from the RED delegated regulation 2022-30, and this is there. So this was a common framework that we should use. I want to clarify another things because they say why 18031. 18031, while it was developed and there were a lot of experts that work on it, is the first standard for cybersecurity standard that was harmonized and was built using the 62443-4-2 and the ETSI 303-645. But whatever is there is not invented, is coming from there. So we need also to take in consideration that and to clarify this aspect that is very, very important. So and I wanted to highlight that. Moreover,
Angelo, so there is something I wanted to ask you. You're going to be showing us today also how the work on the PT2 builds on the RED work and augments the security control. Exactly. Perfect. We had a question like that.
No, absolutely. So this is just to set up the stage, but yeah, you are correctly. And I was about to say this here. And then again, so this is the other reference in the term coherence. And then of course, we all know that the work on 18031 needs improvement because the scope was only product oriented, but then with the CRA you have more requirements, and you will see later which are the more requirements and how we address it. And so this is just a kind of overview on why is important 18031 and of course how it needs to be adapted. So thank you for the comment, Lucia. So that was spot on. Just to conclude into the preliminary word. So like I said, now we saw what is the role of PT1. And the role of PT1 is like the role of the 27001 when you apply organizational control. So let's not go into that, but this is just an example on how PT1 could be seen for PT2, like the relation between 27001 and 27002. 27001 is the information security management system, and then the 27002 is the catalog of security control. And then, of course, you start from the risk, you select the security requirement, you implement, monitor, document, and so on. Is all the life cycle with the process. Here, I just included that what is the security concept and relation between control and risk from the common criteria, and so from the official reference. I will not go into details, but this is just to have it as a reference for what is the relation between security control and risk and asset. And we use this kind of model while we develop the security requirements also. Just as there are many security framework control that you can find on the market, and of course, the NIST framework. Then for NIST2, the implementation NIST2, you have the cyber fundamentals. That is a pretty comprehensive list of control, more from the organizational perspective, I know, but this is just, should be used as a reference at least to what is the state of the art. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, there is the 27002, always organizational control, and there is also the ETSI 103-305 that is an evolution of the CIS security control along with the 104 to 19. And this is just to give you some reference and to see and to invite you to have a look at it. What are the objectives for our work? One, we know that in the M606, the line 214, that is our PT2 work, what I'm doing, what we are doing all, is supposed to be published on 30 October 2027. But what we are doing is to try to speed up that and to move ahead the deadline and to create something that may be useful for the manufacturing the default category and then for alignment with verticals as soon as possible. And of course, this is the main activity that we want to cover. And of course, as soon as we have the standard out, as soon we can help manufacturers to understand how they need to convert an essential requirement to a technical control and how they can contextualize their situation better. Again, we all know that harmonized standards are not mandatory to be used, especially for the default category. You can use other standard, but you need to demonstrate that is linked with essential requirement. And like I said before, one of the objectives to be for PT2 is to build on 18031, as I mentioned before. That is also in the mandate at 606 and into the CRA reference legal text. And of course, the idea was to improve, to contextualize, augmented with additional control to cover, of course, the scope of CRA. We are all aware about that, and we will see today during our deep session how we did that. We in PT2, what is our aim is also to have an annex at the end of the document that we want to create a mapping with 60443, a mapping with CESIP, with 300-3645, and then we are really asking also to members of Working Group 9 to step up and to create these mappings, because more we are and more we try to reduce the fragmentation that we have in the market today with a lot of standard. Maybe they say something similar with different words, and if we create a more comprehensive as possible mapping within PT2, this really can help to reduce fragmentation and help to have a more resilient market, digital market in Europe and in the world. And of course, here in the last point that you see in the slide, this is an extract of the standardization request. In PT2, we need to have the security problem definition and security objective. We did this with a TR. We will see later how. And we need to have, of course, the technical specification, the list of technical security control, and then we need to have an assessment methodology, of course. And this was what has been asked in the standardization request. Just as an overview of the timeline, like I said, we are trying to advance a little bit the PT2 work, the 40,000-1-4, and we are working to deliver an early draft by the end of June, but we are end of May. But what we are trying to do now is to go through an assessment as soon as possible. So in these days, and to make sure that we are going in the right direction, and then that we are adjusting the direction of the PT2 as early as possible before we are going to a more mature stage. Now the tentative timeline is for the publication is May, June. So now I put it as an optimistic May, but we already expect at least in June. And this is a few months before the deadline, and we will see if we can achieve at least that for having something useful for the market. Yeah, and this is the objective. Just to, as I anticipated before, we created a TR, technical report, where we decompose the essential requirement in threats and in their corresponding security objective. The first version of the TR that we created was related only to direct attack, but CRA, of course, as all we are aware, is covering also indirect attack, misconfiguration, and so on. And so we had that version, and now we are evolving that version within PT2 to have more alignment with the essential requirement, and more link with a security objective that is a kind of abstraction that can be used also for other mappings. For example, 62443 use also our initial security objective to map with their requirement, and then we can use as an abstraction layer also to derive our mapping in PT2. I like abstraction, so this is just a kind of abstraction that I created, because of course essential requirement they have a relation between each other, and in the first row, so you have vulnerability, configuration, access, data, availability, propagation, hardening, and monitoring are the concept that is linking for me the essential requirement. This is a personal interpretation, is not something that has been agreed and so on. It's just to share a little bit of this view. For example, we have the vulnerability. Of course, you need to not have known vulnerability, and that is essential requirement A. But of course, what you can do for a vulnerability, you need to fix it. How you can fix it with the security update, a notification, a postpone, and this is essential requirement C. So we can create this kind of relation and have as a concept the vulnerability. In that way, in this abstraction model is easier also to understand what is the classification of the threat and link and relate similar essential requirements. So for configuration, of course, you have you don't need to have an insecure configuration. We cover also into our scope in PT2 also the risk on the initial commissioning and provisioning. We had, of course, the reset functionality that needs to be there and the data deletion from essential requirement M. Access, of course, unauthorized access, this is the essential requirement D, and access control and so on. And you have all the essential requirements that are related to data. Confidentiality and integrity. So I included here data disclosure and data tampering as a simplification. And you can see here what are the essential requirements that are linked. And then we have data minimization. So you need to reduce as much as possible the data that the product is using related to the intended purpose of your product itself. So you should not use more data than you are allowed to. And then you have also the deletion part for the data. Another part is the availability. You need to make sure that the services and the product itself is available. It is essential requirement H. And then there is essential requirement that is about propagation. So you need to make sure that your device that is in a network should not influence or damage also other devices within the same network or broader. And I think that we had also an example recently that there was the kind of robot that they washed, their autonomous robot that they clean the house. The circular one, I don't remember the name, but there was a tentative to access to one, and the developer that was trying to control one had a way to control the entire set of devices. So that was also a problem with the design of the product that needs to be taken into consideration with propagation. We have also the hardening. You need to have mitigation controls, mitigation exploitation controls, and then you need to make sure that you expose as less as interface as possible. More interface, more connectivity, more attack surface. So that is a simple principle. And then you have all the monitoring and logging that you need to monitor all the activities, security relevant activities, and all the action on data and asset. So that is a simplification. I hope that can help, but I'm using this model through my explanation later. This is the reason why I introduce it. Yeah. So here, this is just as a start. We have the PT2 structure. And as you can see, we have the chapter general, where you have where we explain how we are aligned with PT1 and the risk-based approach, and of course a reference on the diagram that we saw earlier, and of course the fact that PT2 is not surviving alone. So you need to have a process like in PT1 that can support the selection of control and the monitoring of the control and so on. Then you have a chapter with all the essential requirements. So we have the mapping to the security objective, and is a kind of guideline that the reader can use to understand how to read the technical control, how to aggregate, and how to see the relation with the essential requirement. Then we have a section on security objective that is focused on security capability or security mechanism. You have a kind of informative mapping between security objective and controls. And then you have all the list of control in a chapter. The chapter will be chapter 7 for now, but I don't know if there is some changes while we are developing the structure. And we have all the assessment criteria for the security control. For now, as it is now the status of PT2, we are closing the section, all the security control with the section with the requirement, rationale, and guidance. The assessment criteria is something that we still need to agree, and there is some work to be done there to have an alignment, because there is a kind of line of thoughts that we want to simplify the assessment of 18031 and make it not use the decision tree or people that they want to use it. So we need to understand how we can address that. And as I said before, we have the intention to add into the annex as much as mapping as possible, but this is also related to how the community is responding and how many mappings we will have from our working group 9 members or others. Yeah. Now I think that we cover all the background and we are there. So the idea is that we go through the first 2 essential requirements, and then we have a break of 10 minutes. And so I think that we will have it at 2. So bear it with me, and then we will cover the first 2 essential requirements, and we will see also the interaction, how it will be, and if there are questions and so on. So I don't see the screen, Lucia. So if there is some questions and so on at the end of each section, we can cover that, and we have 15 minutes, between 12 or 15 minutes for each of the section that I will show. Yeah. Perfect. Let's start with the first essential requirement. In the slide, you can see a summary of what is the essential requirement. We need to make available this product on the market without known vulnerability. This is before it's going on the market. You need to make sure that while you are putting on the market, there is no known vulnerability. And here, for simplicity, I added, I copy and pasted the term and definition from CRA. Why I'm doing this? Because sometimes, even while we are writing the requirement, sometimes there is people that don't have in mind what is the original term and definition. We need to pull it out always. So, but have it like this is very handy. So here we can see that we have exploitable vulnerability. What does it mean? It means that it needs to be it is exploitable when is exploitable under practical condition. Not all that is exploitable is in general is exploitable for a particular product or for a particular condition. So we are talking about that kind of definition. So we will go later on that, because there is also the frequent asked question from the Commission that is clarifying that, and there is also the guidance released recently. And then vulnerability definition, that means weaknesses or a flaw for a product with digital element that can be exploited by a cyber threat. This is more in terms of definition. So here you have the related recitals. I will not read it. I put it here as a reference while we are going through the technical control, and you can, and also for you to point it back without opening the CRA legal text. But there is a part of the text, the recital 66, for example, I want to highlight that there is the role of the European Vulnerability Database that is mentioned that will assist manufacturing detecting known exploitable vulnerability. This is one of the way that is also, by the way, included in the draft in the frequent asked questions already, and in the draft that was published recently from the European Commission. This is just an overview because these are an extract of related questions. So there is, for example, the frequent question: how can a manufacturer ensure that a product is free from all vulnerability? CRA doesn't ask you to be free for all. It's impossible to be free for all the vulnerability, and not all the vulnerability are exploitable under practical conditions. So it's important then that the manufacturer, while evaluate this, have an internal team or have internal process that they are dedicated to this activity to check that something is exploitable or not, or is a risk. So so there is also how should manufacturer deal with a non-exploitable vulnerability. So you can, for example, put on the market a product, and then the day after there is a known vulnerability. You cannot control that, so you are not liable because you did your due diligence before putting the product there. There was no vulnerability in the public database, something appeared later, and so you can then fix that issue with secure update. But we need to understand when starts the liability for this essential requirement. And for sure, if you did a due diligence and the vulnerability is happening the day after that you place on the market, then you need to activate other security control like software update to make sure that you solve that, but you are not liable for breaking this essential requirement. And then there was also a guidance in the FAQ that was nice regarding how can a manufacturer be aware of actively exploitable vulnerability. Now, there is no relation because we are speaking about exploitable, not actively, but this is a kind of guidance that you can use, and you can check in the guidance that there is a reference that you need to look at the European database, vulnerability database, NIST database. You can receive a vulnerability from a reporter. You can be aware about the vulnerability by a partner, and so on and so on. I will not list all. You can have that reference and you can link it. I show you before what is my abstract model that I'm using. I created a mind map, as you can see here. And during the session today, we will explode all this section. And we will check one by one what are the relation between the security objective and the essential requirement. Now it's easy, so we are speaking about known vulnerability that are exploitable, and this is a security objective that we called SO, vulnerability management process. Then for each section that I will show you later, I will go a little bit slower now to let you understand what is the structure, and so after that it will become automatic, so I don't need to explain that. For each section that you see into my presentation here, you can see that I show you what is the relation of the mandate of M585 from RED 2022-30, and I just copy and paste what are the requests from the Commission. You can see that the language is the same. For example, here the request was that on the risk basis, and so we have that with the PT1. You need to have up-to-date software and hardware at the moment of placing on the market that do not contain publicly known exploitable vulnerability. So the CRA essential requirement is without the word public, is with known exploitable vulnerability. But as you can see, Essential requirement is covering network and misuse of the network resources. Then you have data protection, privacy, and you have financial and monetary. So the creation of the three standard, -1, -2, and -3 at the time was created to align with the essential requirement of RED Article 3D, E, and F. That was about network, privacy, and financial. And so this is the reason why this separation. What we did in PT2 was to aggregate all in one requirement and then to adapt and expand one was required. So as you can see, there is at least in the concept, there is 100% mapping. And then the message here is that let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's continue to build on this requirement and on the others, and we are aligned. Here in this slide, I see there is the vulnerability assessment. So you can see that there is the relation between threat and security objective. All the threat and security objectives are in the TR that we are preparing, and then they will be under the HAS assessment to see if we have some feedback on that. And then you can see what is the technical control that you have into the into our standard. We explicitly maintain the same naming convention of 18031 and the same numbering to show this alignment and to make sure that we have as much as reusability as we can also into the naming, because now the market is more familiar with that, and so we don't want to lose that and reinvent the wheel. Let's use that. And then the main message here is that we use Jack 1, we adapted, and we had no addition. How we adapted. So now there is some of the requirement I did cross-check review, and I documented. So I didn't do for all in my presentation because otherwise it was supposed to be not 4 hours but 16. And I just have some highlight. So for example here, regarding the vulnerability assessment with essential requirement A, a lot of verticals they are approaching in different ways. So there is somebody that is mentioning especially vulnerability scanning that is specific, or they have, for example, even going through, okay, you need to use a freely available scanner, and that is enough. But not all the non-exploitable vulnerability are available from the network interface. Maybe it's internal and the manufacturer has control on them. So we need to make sure that we cover the scope as much as we can. And there is some that mention the vulnerability database, some not, and there is most of the verticals that they refer to 40,000-1-3, that is the vulnerability handling. Of course, it's important, but when we cannot point to all the requirements, we need to be a little bit more specific, because we can even say a subset of 40,031 is useful for this essential requirement satisfaction. How 62443 is approaching? You have this in every requirement, because for me 62443 is the one that has a more comprehensive way to approach the problem, and is a long-standing standard on the market. So this is the reason why I'm looking into details in this, and of course along with the verticals and 18031, 62443, 303, 645, and so on. But how is approaching is that the 62443 is redirecting to a requirement 4.4 that is part of the 62443-4-1, that is a process requirement, entirely process requirement. Now there are a lot of questions. So what does it mean? What is the impact of mandating 40,000-1-3? For the verticals, okay, 40,000-1-3 will aim for the presumption of conformity, and so maybe makes sense to have it in the vertical. In the horizontal, I don't know, because you can use also other methods to reach the same objective that is not implementing all the 40,000-1-3, or we can have small pieces of that. So this is a personal reflection. It's also based on what I'm hearing, but it's not an official position. But the idea is that maybe for verticals, it makes sense to refer normally to 40,000-1-3, but maybe if PT3 will provide the presumption of conformity. But I heard also from the Commission that the preference is to have it as an informative in one of the discussion. I don't know how it will end up the comments. But for me, when you are referring to 40,000-113 for this essential requirement, we need to be a little bit more specific, or maybe to point to specific clauses that are essential for supporting this essential requirement. Referring as a whole is not helping, to be honest. So, and that is my first personal reflection. So, and then I believe that for the horizontal, we need to have the reference. We need to be specific, but it should be informative. But we need to clarify what is this relation, what is the specific requirement that we need to support this essential requirement. So in every section that we will cover, so we will have, I did a kind of think tank exercise to see what are the different ways possible that you can implement this. For example, how you can be aware about the vulnerability. Like I said, I like the Commission guidance is mentioning you can have an external researcher, you can have internal assessment and monitoring, you can have a communication from partner and supply, you can have your internal testing that is already mentioned. But what you can do as a minimum, for example, you need to have at least the asset and the vulnerabilities that you are referring to check the SBOM, and you need to have internal kind of at least a process to have to check that something is exploitable or not, because you can have an external report that say this vulnerability is exploitable, and you cannot accept it, and not having at least a check to see that because maybe a vulnerability can be exploitable under laboratory settings, but not under practical condition. But this is, you need to have the team internally to do that at least, or externalize. But the important is that you have this check for your due diligence. And then, of course, when you are selecting hardware and software that you are going into your device, this plays a big role in your due diligence. You know why? Because maybe when you selected a Bluetooth board, and this is vulnerable, and on a hardware level, it's difficult then to change all before you are going to the market. So you need to have at least a little bit of due diligence while you are doing this provisioning part. Just to end, this is at least for the vulnerability assessment. I will promise that will be faster for the others, but at least now you know the drill. You have a conclusion slide for each section that say that what is the security objective that we want to cover and the technical control. And we believe that with PT2 this is fairly covered, and everything is aligned. So with the 18,031 and with the language that is there. Now, so what I want to do is to give you the time for filling in, if you want now or later,
we can take some moment now, Angelo, for them to access the questionnaire, and in the meantime, I will bring to your attention some questions.
Oh, perfect. So that is a good thing, because we can do this in parallel, because maybe there is also some good content that is coming in. Yeah. So I'm also sharing the link of this form if somebody doesn't have the phone to scroll. And yes. I need to, let me see, because I'm also moving from screen, and so I need to. Okay, can you okay, converge responses. So just to show you how is it going, and we can reflect on some answers, so you can see also the answer real time, and yeah. Q&A. So we can have some moment for the Q&A, and then we can go later for a small break, and we can cover the order in the next 2 hours. What is the level of implementation expected from a default category product? Security level 1, 2? Yeah, so this is, I understand why you are having these questions, because of course, vertical, they're implementing a concept about the security level, risk level. There is this also in 62443. We don't have that in PT2 because this is an horizontal standard, and we cover the basic requirement, and we cannot even create a kind of a security risk level because it's too broad, the list of product. So you can create when you have specific one. So yeah, so this is the point. I hope that I answer. So we don't have the security level, and we will not implement that just because of the list. There is a reference on the 40,000 to the BSI and standard. Those are two distinct. They are two distinct separate initiative, of course, yeah. So there is no reference, but we have within the working group 9 members from BSI that they are also contributing on 40,000-1-3, and so with that contribution, there should be a link at least from a conceptual level, but not directly. There is no mapping. Yeah. Hope that this is answered. And then we have the CRA requires an SBOM with the top level dependency. Yeah, so I think that we will skip these questions because this is for the vulnerability handling. So I want to focus now the conversation on the PT2 if possible. Because otherwise, if we have all the questions for PT3 now, we don't cover PT2. So I would like to skip the question on PT3.
There is, Angelo, a question I sent to you privately in the chat.
Oh.
And then you can see if this is in scope or not.
Yeah, so I think that this is not in scope because that question regarding the liability, so that it's about the non-exploitable vulnerability, but this is more related to the guidance of the Commission, yeah?
Yes, indeed, I agree. So I made a clarification that please, although we enjoyed this topic a lot and we would like to discuss with you for hours, we need to select the questions very much to the topic. And also I see that there are some colleagues with the hand raised. We will ask you to please first try to type the question in the Q&A, and only if you feel that we didn't understand you, we can go with hands raised. Otherwise we risk that we wouldn't manage to take all of the questions. And of course, if at the end we manage to see all of the slides that Angelo prepared for us, we can open really the floor and use every remaining minute to all of your questions. Thank you for your understanding. And I think, Angelo, then we can move on.
Yeah, I think that we need to have another break at 2 just to give time for because otherwise it will be not digestible. So let's have that in mind. So we have 5 minutes, and I see here, as you can see on the screen, you have a lot of responses, and so we have already 70. So these are extremely useful. Thank you so much, because then I will publish this in like I did for PT3, and we will take in consideration all this information because is extremely important. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate the level of participation that is here, and yeah, and this is extremely valuable. So should we take the hands? So because it's good that we have the written question. So I don't see the hands.
It's best to move on, and then at the end we tackle all of the hands.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much. So I think that there is a fairly. We will not go into the details, but I want just to scroll through the questions. So I see that we have. Mostly of the people that they think that is clear, this section. And of course, we have most of the people that is neutral or practical, that the standard is as a practical implementability. So there is, of course, 24% that say that is somewhat practical. So there is a little bit of fair distribution. And then, do you think that something is missing? No. So it means that major of the people they think that is not. I would like to see in the order maybe or not if they have concrete point, because I would love to see concrete point, and I will take in consideration and I will bring it for me with me. So this is the reason why if you include here, be sure that will be included. And I think that so we have a list of requirements. I see clarity that this is the point, requirement, vulnerability. We will not go into the details, but I will analyze this and provide a summary. But at least you can understand how your comments are taken. All the comments are anonymous, so don't hesitate to make comments. So this is because we cannot identify who you are and so on. And so if you want, you can define your organization or whatever you want to share, but all the comments are anonymous. So that needs to be clear, and this is important. So I think that we have a fairly distribution of comments. And so I think that average we have for this section 3.98, so it's just a good level of rating for this standard, for this essential requirement. But yeah, but I believe that there will be a lot of more questions. So we have other section. So and Lucia, you are suggesting to continue and to have a break later, or to have a break every hour?
I think if it's okay for you, because I see we are only in the secure configuration, we can try to cover this section and then we can see.
Perfect. So it's just for the audience. I don't want to overwhelm. Yeah. So we covered the first essential requirement, pretty straightforward. And let's go on the secure configuration. And of course, I highlighted in the essential requirement what are the keywords and also how we dismantled this essential requirement. So we have the secure default by default configuration. Default password, it should not be there with the default password, or insecure protocols and so on. And then the possibility to reset to the product to the original state. So this is another keyword that we integrated. So here I just link with the recital 64, but this is a repetition of the essential requirement, and I just copy and paste here to have it as a reference. Because there is the contractual element that is unless otherwise agreed between manufacturer and business user in relation to tailor-made product. There is this exception. This is made in an exception, contractual based, but I think that here the Commission can provide more guidance on that than not a technical standard. And of course, you need to check that we need to make sure that all the essential requirements that we are mentioning today, an obligation for the manufacturer is that you need to make sure that the product doesn't have only the security control throwing in there and that's it. You need to design, develop all the product with a rational and with the risk assessment and secure software development lifecycle inside it. We have I isolated for you some of the questions from the CRA that were related to the secure by default requirement. So it becomes handy when you have the reference, because if you want to go into details, I put the link there, PDF, and so you can see the full answer. The manufacturer, of course, when is placing the product on the market secure by default, needs to look at the intended purpose, the reasonable foreseeable use, and its risk assessment. So there is also, this is the main element that you need to take in consideration while you are doing and applying not only this requirement, but all your essential requirement. But I extracted this here because it was referred to secure by default. And then again, here there is the the tailor-made part, like I said, and the frequent asked questions has the answer there. So I will suggest you to have a look and to understand how what was the guidance from the commission itself. Yeah, and this will be not extended within the PT2 standard. So what I can do is refer to the guidance. This is the beautiful mind map that this is not approved by Working Group 9 and so on. This is just my interpretation, and now I like to see the relation between threats and the security objective is the leaf of this. So I just like the format, and you can use it as a reference or not, but yeah. But here you can see three main aspects that we take in consideration with our threat model, our TR technical report, and we have the insecure configuration by default, the weak, and we have the secure default configuration, security objective, secure default configuration. Then we have the initial commissioning. So we went a little bit beyond this essential requirement, and we included also the secure startup. Why the secure startup? There were some members that were convinced that okay, you may deliver a secure by default product, but then the process that is enrolling the user has some insecure part. And the manufacturer should look also to that part and to make sure that while the configuration of the initial setup needs to be also configured in a secure manner. And then there is when there is the factory reset that is missing, and we have two security objectives. Factory reset that is in 2B, in the essential requirement B, and a secure data deletion that is in M, because when you delete the data, you can also link it with the functionality that enabled the factory reset. In this slide, you have only, not on all the slide, because otherwise it was supposed to be a huge work. I created some notes with some references, some example of something that I look at, but it's not in all the slides, just to not overload also yourself with a lot of information, which there are a lot. All these slides are condensed just to give you the chance to hear it now and to digest it later. So that is the point. Here, like I said before, so I want to show you also the relation of 18031, and we have that, of course, the secure configuration is not for point D on network, is only present on point E. That is, allow user to easily delete their stored personal data, enabling the disposal or replacement of equipment without the risk of exposing personal data. So, as you can see here, you see that the scope of this requirement was mostly related to personal data because of the 18031. But of course, we expanded in CRA to cover, of course, also the other data, not only the personal data for the deletion. And of course, this doesn't cover even completely the requirement because there is no factory reset. It's only covering generically the deletion in general. Here, I just listed some of the objective that may support this essential requirement, like limiting the exposure of the services. Of course, like I said, if there is a lower attack surface, you have lower possibility that there is an insecure configuration. You need to document the exposed interface, because of course, if there is an undocumented exposed interface, can be used as a backdoor or can be used abused by an external person that is not aware. And then this is the point. No unnecessary interface. This is similar because you cover services and interface. You need to document the sensing capability. You know, when you have an app that you're installing on your phone, the app is telling you which sensitive capability will use from your phone. It can be using location. And if there is an app that doesn't need to use a location, tell you to use the location, you say, listen, there is something wrong with that. So, and if you document that, the user is more aware. No default password, and then you need to have deletion mechanism. Here is an overview of all the mapping between the threats and security objective, and this is useful for the reasoning. And then we have the list of what we have now as per today in PT2. We inherited all the requirements from 18031, Jack 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and this is what I explained before, so I don't need to repeat it now. But what I didn't mention before was the password strength. You cannot have a default password because we know we have the Mirai botnet attack. We don't want another Mirai or other similar problem. And then we have the applicability of deletion mechanism, the LM1. In addition, we created different additional requirement, that is a secure startup configuration. We created the factory reset that was not explicitly mentioned before, and no unneeded software components to make explicit that is not only about interfaces, about hardware, but also software component. And so this is what we have been discussing. By nature, the vertical standard, of course, they need to be specific by product. So while I did the review, there is something very specific. So I didn't list all because it was irrelevant for our conversation. But what I was interested in is to enlist how 62443 is approaching. You have here authentication manager, integrity of the boot process, and we have that requirement. I didn't link it to secure configuration because I linked it to others. So we cover. Information persistence, we have it somewhere else, so I didn't want to repeat here. The control system recovery and reconstitution, and then network security configuration. This is also online. List functionality. So there is different term, but we cover the same topic with the standard as per today. So we did our due diligence, and this is very nice. And then, of course, like you see, even from all the verticals, so they have the same security control that is mentioning, same basic security control that is mentioning between all the verticals, or in a different way. If we can find between horizontal and vertical similar name, or even refer, and have a kind of mapping, this will be useful for having the same vocabulary for the industry, because small medium enterprise that maybe has a product falling into verticals, maybe he will end up with two different standards, and so we need to make sure that we facilitate this alignment in the language. I did also a scan here. It's not detailed, it's just to highlight what are from the other verticals, what are the keywords that they included. Most of them they are the same that we included. It's like unwanted exposed interface, not configure, not secure configuration, improper permission. Of course, this is a huge problem when you have everything running at root, for example, and if you have a vulnerability on root, you can take over all the device. You have unsecure protocols, unsecure crypto, so the list can be unlimited. So we need just to cover the basic and to build up from that, because our catalog doesn't want to be complete. It needs to cover only the basis and then build up from that, because it's impossible to be complete. Yeah. So here is in this big table, you can find the mapping between the security objective and the control. And I will not go into the details, but at least you can use it as a reference while you are reasoning on the applicability of this requirement linked to the essential requirement itself. Yeah. Again, we have another survey. Maybe we can have also a kind of break here. Let me copy the link for all of you. Okay. And I will put it in the chat, and looking forward also to get your input here. Will be amazing. Lucia, you already did it, so thank you so much. I'm sending a message only to host and panelists. Let me send to everybody. So sorry. So now I send the link to everybody, and I will just have some minutes to see if we have some response. And we can answer also to some questions in the meantime, and then let me see view responses. So really, thank you for the answer. So this is amazing. So there is some questions, so we can have at least until.
Yes, I will mark to answer live if you think that it is in scope. Otherwise, I will answer already live to one of Erno about the products and the difference between consumer and industrial products to addressing the standards. So we have basically for some of the product categories, for example, VPNs, network management systems, CM, routers, firewalls. These are categories that are split in two. And I will leave to you the link to our work here, because you will see that in those cases, the the operational technology part will be addressed separately, and they will have standards based on the ENIC 62443, where the rest, what is IT part of the product category, let's take the VPN, for example, will have then a separate standard. So that is how it is planned in the standard to divide a little bit consumer and the industrial products. I hope that was helpful. Then Angelo, there is a question about the terminology. I don't know if this is in scope, you think, if product includes the remote data processing solution.
Yeah, but this is in the latest guidance from the Commission. So you can also look at that. And there is the definition, but of course is included. Remote data processing is part of the product with digital element. Yeah,
yes.
That was the question, because if you want to have some clarification, that is supposed to be the right clarification. I don't know if I will share the link. Lucia, you
I have
can.
it here. I have the link to the Have Your Say portal, where you can have access to the latest draft of the Commission guidance. And here it is a draft. The Commission is consulting the stakeholders about this, but it still can serve you to see a little bit what is the direction of their thinking, and hopefully can clarify. Thank you, Steve, for your question. And I would like to answer also a question from Naoki. And if it is correct that products that fall under Annex 3 and Annex 4, so important and critical products, are subject to both the horizontals and the vertical standards. And for this, it is important to know that what we call vertical standards, it's indeed the product-specific standards that will have more granular requirements, assessments, and risk analysis and risk assessments. And then for some parts of those documents, some parts of those vertical standards do a reference, so they are basically taking some of the parts of the horizontal standards, and they can be seen together as two pieces of a puzzle that come together, because the horizontal standards, they will bring some of the concepts and will be complemented by the vertical standards that will be in more detail addressing all of the product specific. Angelo, is there any last question maybe you would like to choose? And otherwise we move on, or we take a break, as you prefer.
No, I think that we can move on with the last one, and then with the next one, and then we can take a break, because I see that people are also continuing answering. I want to say again, thank you. So we can go to the next one, and then we can take a break, because we can make much more use of the time. But again, all the questions will be aggregated and will be released with this presentation. And I think that we will give also some time to people to add, maybe 1 week. And there will be a communication on that. And after we collect all the data, I will create a presentation that will be published on the portal for all of you. So here we have the security update. This, as I said, is also extremely important for fixing issue after the product is on the market. And for software is the only way. For hardware, there is or recall, but that is the last resort, or have practical condition to not be exploited, the vulnerability maybe justify that is not exploitable. So here you can see that I highlighted that the vulnerability needs to be addressed through security update. There is a keyword regarding automatic security updates. So we have, of course, a security control for that. Easy to use opt-out mechanism. Maybe you are in context that you don't need the security update. You can opt out. And then you need to have notification about the update. Maybe if the user have the notification, it's easier that they will install an update, and then you can also temporarily postpone. Here I just had some recital. Here is also highlighted the fact that one of the problem from products that are on the market is that they have insufficient and consistent provision for security update. This is the reason why this requirement is here, and this is the reason why has a huge importance, this requirement itself. And there is another extract that is very nice regarding the product liability directive and what is the relation. And actually, there is the relation regarding the lack of security update. If the lack of security update for your product has caused a damage, the liability for the manufacturer could be triggered. This is important. Keep it in mind. So this is the reason why this requirement plays a lot of importance. I'm not going into details in this because there is the FAQ from the Commission and the new documents, so you can read about this there. Yeah. Here you have also the recital 56 that is just repeating what is in the essential requirement with more words. And another addition is that there is a part that says that where a product with digital element has a user interface of similar technical means, allowing direct interaction with the user, the manufacturer should make use of such features. So you have a display, you can have some notification there, or you can say that the device has reached the end of support period. It's not a mandate, but is if you have that, you can use for this purpose. Questions that are in the FAQ. So is the manufacturer responsible for the installation of security update? No, you are not responsible. But it is the user that needs to install it. But if you can support also the user with automatic update notification, this is of course good for the market. And another, I'm just summarizing. If you want to know the details, you need to read the FAQ. But this is just to give you a hint about what are the considerations that we are taking in consideration while we wrote the requirements. And again, there is the interplay between the CRA and product liability directive. I covered this before, and then you can read it better into the FAQ. Recital, so there is the recital 56. You need to enable notification, distribution, and download of installation of security update in an automatic manner. You are not forced to do automatic for all the product, but of course, this should be particularly indicated at least for consumer product. Imagine in an industrial facility that you push automatic update and then you can create a damage there. So this is the reason why we are all aware of that. We just need to interpret the requirements from CRA, not with the law say this, so I need to implement this. But is a risk-based, is proportionate, then you need to really have a strong risk assessment, strong motivation, strong justification. So that is critical. is the central part of all the CRA activities. This is the relation with the nice graph that I have. We cover exploitable vulnerability. Now we need to cover problem with unpatched vulnerability. So here we have the security objective updatability and automatic updates. And then we have also unpatchable. So it means that there are some of the ROM part or some of the component some of the software cannot be updated. You need to have a risk assessment there. And this is nicely covered also in ETSI 300-3645, to be honest. So that is also a nice reference that you can have there, and a reference that we use. And then, of course, we have also for the vulnerability, the notification part. We need to make sure that it's not having any interruption of the functionality. You have, for example, you can postpone the update. You can have the automatic updates and user update notification. Again, this is just a mental map that I created. So this is just for me to explain the relation and to have a basic threat model on the back with simple word, seeing as a tree. So here we have the classic requirement mapping with the security updates with the 300-605, 18,031, sorry. And we have the mapping with the article 3.3D. So where we have that already automated update is already there, is already part of 18,031. And the secure way to update this requirement is there. So the only thing that is missing from a quick read, as you can see, is that easy to use opt-out mechanism, notification for the user, and temporarily postpone them. So you can, even at high level, understanding what are the gaps. It's not even going into the details. But this gives you an idea of what you can reuse. Again, here there is the mapping between threat and security objective and their relation. And of course, when you have a security update, we have always the doubt about, there is a question regarding the remote update, but what does it mean then? Having an update on a remote data processing, should I deliver the release note for that or not? Because most of the manufacturers, they just release the update when it's on the remote data processing and not even having the release note there, and they focus more on the product. So this is not clarified yet, the problem with silent patching, but this needs to be discussed yet and understanding how to deal with that, also with the clarification with the Commission for the remote data processing part that is included in the new draft. We didn't have the time to analyze in the details. We will do it, and then we will try to define something around it. Just as a discussion here, so the requirements that we have now in the standard is from 18,001. We have some 1 until 3. We cover. Like I said before, what we didn't add is postpone updates and the user notification. That's it. So, and this is the part that we needed to include. There is some comments like that maybe we will possibly merge with some 4. Why? Because if you postpone something, it means that you have a notification. If you had a notification, that is integrated in the same requirement. We try to optimize where possible, but we need to discuss and we need to understand what is the best way to do that. Another point is that during our definition, there were a lot of concern regarding what does it mean notification. So how you can be notified. You can be notified in various ways. You can with a screen, like we saw in the CRA, with a sound, with something, and so we should not be very specific on that. But yeah, we can speak about notification in general. So just to have a kind of think tank. So if you sit and then you think about what are the requirements, these are updatability, secure update, automatic updates, user notification, and opt-out mechanism. I cannot think about other requirements that can be there. And again, there is also from the vertical more specificity, because I saw that they speaks about anti-rollback, documentation on security updates, or even timing jitter, transparency and logging. So they go very, very in details. But I think that us, as a vertical, we can create secure update, have everything integrated there, and move on for the verticals to be more specific on that topic. Here is just a mapping between the security objective and technical controls, and we have the mapping so that you can use. And with that, we can close the third section, and I'm sharing also the link into the chat. And we can go also for the vote here. And maybe this is the right time to have maybe a break, 10 minutes until 14:10, and then we are back. 14:40.
All right, and we'll select Angelo to answer some of the questions live on the Q&A, and it's up to you if we reply now or after the break.
Yeah, so we can, I'm writing also in the chat also to give time, because there is a lot of information to be processed, and we can answer at least, now let's see if, I want to open also the page for everybody to see how the, and it's pretty fast. So we have already 17 comments. Then we have some questions. So here there is a question regarding the industry standard. And yeah, so I think that let's have 10 minutes of break, and so we can go back and answer. So thank you. See you at 14:40.
Thank you, Angelo.
Thank you. Hello all, thank you. Now we are back, so I hope that you had a nice break and then we can start again. I saw some of the questions, but let's try to process the slides as much as possible and then we can keep the questions at the end. Please take note about the as I present what are the main points, because look, it's very important if we can have it all into the into this form, and so it's a structured way to for me to collect input and to be efficient in that. And yeah, it's also a way of for you to have an input also for the development process of the PT2. So thank you so much. What I propose is that we go back to the presentation now, and thank you for the answer from the secure update. And so we are now in access control, and what I want to do is to finalize this, and then we have time for going in deep where is required. So for the access control, as we is the, let's say, the easiest one that we can implement and is totally covered by 18,031. And as you can see here, you need to have the protection from unauthorized access by appropriate control mechanism. And then you have the report on possible unauthorized access. The report on possible authorized access was the main gap. Here, there was, while we were writing the standard, there were a lot of discussion that were generated regarding what does it mean report. So for now, I want to, I just collected some of the language that is used between 62443. Now the reporting, I had a review and is equivalent to the concept of notification there, I had some extract, so they called notification. There is also the definition of event and notification. This is from the ISO. This I extracted on 23004 just to simplify and to have a reference of language. It means act of reporting the occurrence of an event to an interested object. And then we have the definition of alert. That is a message that is sent to a system or a person as a notification to a significant event that may require immediate attention. This was an extract from a document on logging from the European Bank, and you will find a reference while you will have the slides. And it's a nice reference to me. So you can also look it later when you will have the full slide. Here for access control, we are back to the nice mind map. We are speaking about unauthorized access. What are the risks that an unauthorized person is gaining access to the system and to the product, to the remote data processing, to whatever, to the product with digital element. And you have the security objective access control, and this makes sense. And then we have the unreported, so it means that an unauthorized access is not identified and not recognized and not reported. And we have, of course, the access control report, that is the security objective on a report on possible unauthorized access. And of course, to report on something, you need to monitor. And I created the link with the monitoring security relevant activity with the essential requirement L. So this is the point. So we have the extract from 18,031, and you have the same language. You have implement appropriate authentication and access control mechanism. And here we are speaking about appropriate control mechanism for dealing with unauthorized access, and so it's a different way. So that is covered totally, and so we inherited. And then, of course, like I said, there is a clear gap with report, and this is what we covered. We had this mapping between threats and the security objective, and here you can see all the requirements, mapping with 18,031 and what we added. As it's not a surprise for you that we added the report on possible unauthorized access and corruption. We may think to generalize this requirement, but for now we need to fill a gap and we need to have this requirement here, and we will see if we need to refine it in a more generalized way. You find it that the applicability is gray out, and usually we will gray out all the applicability requirement of 18,001 to how to say, when 18,001 was created, was also to integrate the logic to guide more the manufacturer towards a decision and selection of a certain security control. Now it's up to a risk assessment that you need to have in place. We expected that will be more mature in the following years, and so we are focusing only on the product itself and not on the applicability. But this is one of the decisions that we had. Just to recap. Here, I just summarized what are the point or what are the way that 62443-4-2 is approaching it. I didn't list all the requirements because they were very long, and I just highlighted the main one. And here you have a specific control like session lock, remote session termination, auditable events. Is a little bit of a melting pot also from other type of requirements. But of course, you have also very relevant one like the use of cryptography, because you can have access control that is related, so is using the cryptography, and then you have the reference here. Usually, we don't cross-reference all the requirements that are part of the essential requirement E and F, confidentiality, for example, now, and we leave it as an implicit, so we don't want to list it for that. And then, of course, you have also process part that is the continuous monitoring that the access control is working as expected. We have as you can see here, there is only a simple mapping between the access control with the security objective and the list of control. The list of control, we saw it also earlier, and we have the link with the report on possible unauthorized access and corruption. So what we added the corruption also to make this requirement adapted also for the integrity reporting. So this is the reason why there are the tools. I believe that maybe we can have a generic reporting capabilities for that the product needs to have, or notification, and then we can integrate this as a requirement. But we are not yet there, and so we needed to cover as much as possible the essential requirement, and there will be future refinement. So now, just to continue the points, so I want to highlight the possibility to provide some feedback on unauthorized access also on this section, to see if we miss something or there is something not adequate, and I'm looking forward to see if there are some relevant feedback. Lucia, did you see any interesting questions that we may answer at the moment? I want to give a couple of minutes that we...
There are definitely different questions. I think there was a question from Stefano on pairing, if that's a different action and if it's covered by another part of the standard.
Which Stefano is pairing? Pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pairing is a way. So I need that. I mean, this is for Bluetooth and so on, when you are pairing also two devices. Access control we have on human part, and we cover that part, but not to machine. So we need to see if that is reflected with the requirement, but not for access control is not there.
Feel free, Angelo, to scroll.
The pairing we have in secure communication. So we have SCM 2 and 3, that we have the linkage between that, and so there is also there that pairing may fall. So SCM we will cover later.
All right. There are some hands raised, so I'm not sure if
Hands are better to take it later because
we will take at the end, indeed, just to repeat that, because we want to make sure we advance with the slides as much as possible. Then we will ask you then at the end to either type your question in the chat, and then we will try to reply. If we don't get back during the webinar, we will try to get back at you offline via the Q&A report, and otherwise we will see if we have time at the end. Thank you for your understanding.
But in the meantime, if you have things, please fill it in this form because everything will be then processed here. So this is the and of course I will try to be fast also to give you time at the end to have a more interactive session. Yeah. Okay, so I think that we have 26 response here. So please, thank you so much again. So this is very, very encouraging, and thank you for your input. Let's see on the next time, confidentiality. We need to protect the confidentiality of stored, transmitted, and otherwise processed data, personal or others, such as by encrypted, at rest in transit, by state-of-the-art mechanism, by using other technical means. So this is a little bit of, there's an emphasis on encryption, but of course it's not only encryption to guarantee confidentiality, and then there is other technical means. We will see here the definition. Before starting to go into the details, I always want to touch the definition. So for example, here the definition from confidentiality is taken from the 27,000 2018, that it defines confidentiality as the property that information is not made available or disclosed to unauthorized individual, entities, or processes. So, and this is the definition that is there. But of course, like I said, there are different ways to implement. We will see now how we address in PT2. This is the nice diagram that I'm presenting every slide. So you have I put it as a disclosure as a threat, as a keyword, but of course it's not the only one. But we needed to protect data at rest, processed in transit, using the same language as the essential requirement. And then we created the data stored confidentiality, data process confidentiality, and data transmit confidentiality. So there is not so much creativity here, but there is also, just to respond to previously to Stefano, that they say if pairing is there, pairing can be part of the SO Communication Act. That is this essential, this security objective, and this is the reason why we have it here, because you need to authenticate partner, and can be not only an entity, but can be an entity in general, can be a machine-to-machine also interaction, or in machine to person. Let's see. Again, here the game is always the same. So we have the essential requirement, the mapping with the mandate of 18,031 M585. And so reading at the text you need to protect the stored, the transmitted, or otherwise processed personal data against accidental unauthorized processing, including storage, access, disclosure, destruction, or loss or alteration or lack of ability. He is a little bit of a melting pot, but here the focus is on personal data, and then in F is a financial. Again, this is just because of the 18,031 that was written on the essential requirement for red that were too high level, and focus on personal data. But here we need to cover data in general, can be also configuration, can be other things, and this is the reason why it's pretty broad. And of course, while we adapted this requirement, we thought more broader, not to focus only on the personal data, not to focus only on the financial data, but in general asset that and data that you have. Of course, like I said, encryption is only one of the way, but when you're using encryption, you need to use the state of the art. I highlighted state of the art because we will see later, because I have a section defined on the state of the art section part. Here, as you can see, we have the threats. So you have all the threat and security objective linked. And this is just to give you an overview on the relation between threats and security objective. As you can see here, everything is taken by the 18031 and adapted. And so this is the mapping that we have. We have the secure storage, appropriate confidentiality protection for secure storage, secure communication, reply protection. This is specific, but of course is still relevant. Confidential cryptographic key that you need to protect and you need to generate in the right way, and then you don't need to have static value. And then you have the clause regarding the best practice cryptography. Nothing new. If you sit down and then you think about what could be required by this requirement, you need to encrypt the data in transit, at rest, in store. You need to keep cryptography up to date in line with the best practice. And then there is also something that is called crypto agility that you need to implement as much as possible there. And there are all the principles that you can have for doing your job in designing a better way. You need to, of course, ensure proper access control. We didn't repeat, but we have unauthorized access there, so you need to reuse that part. So, and then you need to, when you process data, what is the way to have processed data confidential? You need to use secure area memory. You need to make sure that there is isolation, seclusion, data compartmentalization, access control is privilege. Even zero trust you can implement there, and so on and so on. So I told you the list can be infinite, so this is the reason why in PT2 we don't want to be exhaustive, but we want to cover the basis and then build up from there. Like I said, there is a great initiative from the verticals. There is a work that is underway from the ETSI USR, and there is a cross-vertical group on crypto. And the objective of this group is to create a reusable Annex K that will be used by all verticals. And then, of course, we want to integrate also on the horizontal standard. The annex that is being created has two sections. Has the K1, and that is the Annex K, has the state-of-the-art cryptography, and they have a kind of allow list approach with all the cryptographic mechanisms allowed. And this is coming from the ACCG, agreed cryptographic mechanism, and is the ACM. And I link you also with the reference, and this is from the EUCC guidelines cryptography. This was coming from the SOGAI list, and then of course now that we have EUCC, everything was then handed over to the CCC group. And there is new guidance, and we want to be aligned with this guidance. And then we have the requirement of crypto agility that is there and described, and of course, is an important principle for that. There are concerns, I put it in the slide here in some reflections. So there are a lot of discussion that are happening now. I participated in some of this meeting, cannot participate to all the meeting because we need to prioritize, but I heard that they are worried that about the use that product has on a legacy cryptography algorithm, and they really are worried and concerned if they are evaluated against only a fixed list of approved algorithms. This may hinder the innovation, for example, or and of course. When you have a legacy product, legacy protocol, and state of the art, that maybe is not as secure as it could be. There is, and there was also one of the concern also asked, because I had manufacturers that they were working specifically in the video surveillance industry with the streaming protocol. They use CHA-20, Poly 1305, because is used for streaming content, and is encrypting, and it's very efficient. and is also authenticated encryption that you can have. Is very effective, but it's not even, it was at the time not present in the cryptography algorithm validation program from NIST, and is not even now. And so we need to think about also this case, because we cannot ask them to manufacture to certify that new protocols while is state of the art then for specific industry. I will not go into details with other example just for the sake of time and just to give more time also to go on the other section, but at least you get the idea of what are the main points, problems, and what we are facing as a discussion, very summarized. How 62443 is approaching here? Let's remind, 62443 is always approaching from a combination between technical controls and process in -4, -2, -1. So, and it's the same things that we need to do with the PT2, with the PT1. So we need to use the same similar approach, I guess, to be in line, and is the most reasonable approach that we may take. So here you have software process and device identification. You need to check that there is a symmetric key-based authentication that is strong. Maybe it's not only symmetric, can be asymmetric. So this is the reason why it's important to have the right level of characterization. And in PT2, we need to be as abstract as possible to encompass and to have a generic catalog. So this is the reason why sometimes you don't find the same terminology. Use of physical diagnostic test interface. So you need to make sure that that is secured. Tamper resisting and deletion and detection. Why? Because what is a way to extract memory data in elaboration? Side channel attack with timing attack, with power analysis. And so there you need to have physical access to process that attack. There is also the attack that you can extract the memory and then extract and dump all the data if it's not protected. So, but that are particular type of attack that requires physical access. We are not going to that specificity. Then you need to provide asset owner root of trust, confidentiality, information persistent. Of course, you need to guarantee that that is not volatile. And then you need to erase the shared memory resource. You have cache, you need to remove, or when you have a RAM, you need to clean the RAM when you are restarting and not having data there, because it can be extracted. But of course, you can imagine that this type of control are not maybe for consumer devices, maybe are more for more critical devices. So, but this is the reason why risk assessment is important. And then, of course, use of cryptography. You have all the characterization here with all the security control. You have the SSM, secure storage mechanism. You have I put it here for data process confidentiality, product integrity, that is secure boot, and so on. Not all the requirement that you are here needs to be implemented. You need to have, like I said, a risk assessment, and you need to justify why it's needed, why it's required, and why it's not required. So don't think that everything that is in PT2 you need to integrate, or you need to implement. It's risk-based. And then you have the data transmit confidentiality. You have secure communication mechanism and reply protection, communication authentication. You need to protect the integrity and confidentiality of the communication, and then secure provisioning. Of course, when you are provision the device with keys, needs to be protected. So you cannot have encryption and then you have the key of the encryption in clear text are coded in the source code, or in an area, or a key that is generated with the serial number of your device plus a number, because that is predictable. So all these best practices, I will not mention all, so we are all aware. Now we are at the end of this section. I'm asking you if you could fill in the form to see if you find something interesting here, or to share, and we can give a couple of minutes. Maybe we can see if there is some questions in the meantime that we can answer, and then we can continue. Lucia, did you find something interesting?
Yes, I marked in the between the Q&A some of the ones that maybe we can consider to answer live.
Yeah, because I want to give a couple of minutes for people to collect some response because they are fresh in mind. So this is the reason why. And
Excellent. You can take some time at ease to review the questions, and then at the end we come back with the answers.
yeah, exactly. So do you have some highlight that we can answer? Because it's just a couple of minutes and then we continue.
Yes, so there's a question from Pier Giuseppe. Can protecting stored data be done with physical barriers alone, or we need to encrypt it statically as well?
And then it's a good question because it depends from the intended use, from the product, and so on. But there is something that is mentioning in the guidance from the Commission that you cannot transfer the risk. If
Thank
you
you,
open
Angelo.
the latest draft, you need to make sure you cannot not do something because there is a mitigation control like physical barrier because maybe that is not enough, and you need to justify with a risk assessment if it's enough or not because otherwise you may be liable. Yeah.
There is a question from Wouter. If data confidentiality at rest should be encrypted, or it is enough if it's on a flash device that is not accessible to unauthorized people.
Yeah. So, but how is used? What do you have there? A secret, the secret of Coca-Cola, and so on, or this. So it really depends from the context. Cannot be really generic because if we say yes, no to this question, it means that we are giving a wrong message. So it's all risk based.
Then there is the last question, if we have time, from Claudia. Is the physical access control also considered as a control?
Yeah, of course, this is one of the control. In the defense in depth, you have also physical control. For example, you have in the medical industry, you have the device that are assumed in a protected area, or you have data center. You assume that you have a data center and you have computer in the data center that they are protected in a physical way. And so maybe it's harder for an attacker to have physical access. And so then you focus only on the remote attacks. So this is the thing, yeah. But of course, it is. We didn't emphasize in PT2 physical control, but you have this in 62443, as we saw before.
And then for the, this is really, I think, the last one we can cover. For the access control against unauthorized access that you're taking for the red standards, are they all taken from the red standards, or you are also providing new ones?
I think that I show into the slides, so you can see there is no addition here, at least for confidentiality.
And are you doing a normative reference to the red standards, or if the content will be ready in the PT2 standard?
The content is already in PT2 standard and adapted because we cannot really have it as it is. So we need to expand because the scope was different. So this is the reason why.
Thank you, Angelo.
We are adapting, and we are trying also to aggregate and to generalize and to cover the gaps from red, yeah, from 18031 and to red, to CRA, yeah. Yeah, but yeah, interesting question. Okay, so I think that we can cover the next one. Thank you so much. So I think that we had 37 response, so it's still high, the participation. It's very, very, very encouraging. Thank you. We have the tampering now, integrity. So we need to protect the integrity of data stored. Similar approach to the confidentiality. Yeah. So I think that we can also go faster to this. So here I copied the definition from 27,000. So that is a property of coherence and completeness, the integrity. I have still the same diagram. So, but now I focus on tampering of data at rest. I forgot to explode that. I think that I need to put a note. 78. So I need to. before. So I forgot to explode the at rest. So you have also integrity at rest, data process in transit and undetected. So you can see the relation here from different security control. And when you report integrity, I have it also here, the link with monitoring security relevant activities. So this is the relation between the essential requirement. Yeah, here you have, again, the mapping is the same as before, but I put an emphasis on the word alteration, because here really we are speaking about tampering with the identity integrity protection from data. And the other gap, of course, this is a gap, is clear. We don't need to go into the details to understand that we didn't cover the corruption, report on corruption, okay? And this is the same as unauthorized access. Here you find the mapping, and similar to confidentiality. The only things that you see more here is the integrity report. As you can see here, you see the box on the bottom is added the security control. So you already, if you go through the presentation and you see added the security control, you have already an understanding of what we added. So here in this case, we added the report on possible unauthorized access and corruption. This is the same requirement that we added for the unauthorized access. And I think, again, we are thinking to maybe to generalize, but we still need to have some time to do this job in the right way. So this is the point. But for now, we need to be efficient, cover the gap, and move on until we have this clear understanding. And again, here I also added here the mapping with the product integrity, because if there is integrity protection, you can detect corruption, and you can make sure that there is integrity of data, because at least from boot perspective. If you sit down, so this is what I did, is that I sit down, I say, okay, what are the requirements, how I can decompose, and this is my thinking. There can be many more security control, many more technical control that you can add, but here you need to have the state-of-the-art mechanism to guarantee integrity. This can be done with the Annex K from that is developed as a cross-vertical. Amazing job, and so this is helping each other and helping the vertical to be more efficient. And of course, we have the verification on possible check and corruption and manipulation. So again, this is part of the essential requirement. Secure boot in a way to provide a mechanism to ensure integrity on boot sequence and processes. Of course, if you have secure boot, you are sure that the device is booting and operating in an integral situation. So it was not manipulated. There is no malware, because otherwise you would have would not even boot the device. It's not required. We are not saying that is required. It's one of the mechanisms. But I want just to make sure, but we need to implement secure boot. No, depends. Risk assessment, you need to contextualize. And then we can say if integrity falls, the device should be able to restore integrity. This I put it here, but this is more a requirement for minimize negative impact. So I think that I can correct this. And yeah, I think that while I was creating this, I was thinking also about other requirements, and then we have notification system to communicate that tampering or corruption happened. So maybe we can generalize this in a notification system. Now it's approaching the 6443, so this is good. So you have a public key certificate, strength of the certificate, symmetric. I don't know why asymmetric is not listed, but okay. We have auditable events, timestamp. It's a little bit compared to PT2 that we are more surgical on and more generic, is more specific here, but of course this is for compared to the vertical in the industrial domain. So if you see that we are more generic, is on purpose. Here you have communication integrity, we have it, software information integrity, authenticity of software, and automated notification of integrity violation, and so on and so on. So you have again link to the question here physical tampering, but we don't have for ours, and we don't intend to include at the moment, but yeah. and all the requirements are similar. And yeah, here you have integrity of the boot process. That is our product integrity requirement from 18031. So as you can see, there is a lot of relation between that. And this is to show that, of course, we did the analysis, we did our due diligence in also making sure that this is has the clear mapping, clear relation between different standards. And again, 18001 was built on concept on 62443 and 303645. So this is already a good information for all of us. Yeah. And as you can see here, there is this is the full mapping that it can be useful for you to abstract and to link with concept and to expand it also a little bit for your context, the integrity part. Here again, we have the link to the integrity. I'm sharing into the chat. Okay. If you, so this is the link. I will open also the. And by the way, we will continue to keep it open for a few days, the list, but of course we are asking you to fill it now because it's fresh in your mind. If you have something on this section that say, you missed this, do it please, because this is what we need. Because yeah, and we need also your experience, and it's very, very important. It's a way of participating and sharing. So. In the meanwhile, did you see something interesting that we can just spend a couple of minutes here?
Yes, we have a question from Werner, or I'm not sure if that's your first name, I'm sorry. Will it be clearly identified which requirements will be valid for the different categories, default, important, and critical?
No, so this is not our job. The job is to create a catalog of security control, and then if you need to have, if you are folding in a vertical, you need to implement the vertical standard that is detailed enough to understand that. Yeah.
We have a question from Flavio. He's also interested in unsecure protocols. Yeah. Should industrial protocols like Modbus RTU or TCP be secured?
Yeah, there is also Canvas that is not secured. And so, of course, there are some protocols that if you add security, they will be slow and then they will fail to operate in a real-time environment. And so there you need the physical protection, isolation, and other requirements. So, yeah, understand the questions, but yeah.
Thank you, Angelo. And I would like to answer a question from Gloria. Is there somewhere a mapping between the ENIC 62443 and the CRA requirements?
Yes.
Yeah. So
there is, there will be in the because now there is a JTC 65, yeah.
Senelec TC65X, they are working indeed in updating their ENIC 62443-4-1 and -4-2. And in particular, the -4-2 is going to have what we call an annex, a set. And that annex is a part of every harmonized standard that links the essential requirements of the regulation for which we are preparing the harmonized standard with the parts of the standard. So that one will be in that one particularly. So to summarize, the ENIC 62443-4-2, it's going to have this mapping indeed.
Perfect. Thank you, Lucia. So it was very exhaustive there, but yeah. And we hope also that in PT2 we can also have this mapping there between PT2 and the other standard, because in that way, like I said, we will reduce the fragmentation with the market. Yeah, because like I see is that everybody has their own mapping, yet another mapping. We need to harmonize. Yeah. And this reduces the uncertainty for everybody.
Thank you.
Perfect. I think that we can continue. So thank you so much. We had 20 response here. So I hope that we can continue with a good round of comments because these are gold for us. We have the data minimization. Here, this is a little bit, it was not covered. I think that even today from vertical is not really covered in the right way because we need also to align on the understanding. I want just to start with the definition. This definition I extracted from the GDPR. So that say that personal data must be adequate, relevant, and limited to what is necessary in relation to the purpose for which they are processed. So the GDPR definition is meant that you need to collect as less data as possible that is supporting your functionality or your intended functionality. Here there is, of course, also for me, something that I went deep and then I checked if there was some state of the art for, not in general, for processes I wanted to see something related to product if there is something specific, but I was not able to find it. But I found some ISO on generic privacy information management system, like the 27701 with some definition, and privacy framework 29100. By the way, I put the link because it's also free to access. You can download it for free. And so you can have a list of the privacy technique and framework. There is nothing so much there written. There is only one section on data minimization, but at least it's a reference. It's a free reference anybody can access. Data minimization in your mind is directly, oh, GDPR. No, so it means that they are similar, they are supporting, but there is no legal overlap. But this is a copy and paste, an extract that I did from the FAQ. You can go there in the frequent asked questions, and then you can read it incomplete. But the main difference between that is that we focus with the CRA on the processing data on the product and related to the intended purpose of the product, okay? So you may need something for advertisement or something for that, but this is covered by the GDPR, it's not covered by the product itself. But this is the overlap, the difference that we need to take into consideration. This is the reason why we had creation of 3 requirements that we will see later. Here it's easy. So you need not to collect unnecessary data that are not supporting the intended purpose of the product. This is the keyword, and this is the difference between the GDPR. So please keep in mind. And we need to in CRA there is in 18031 there is nothing. Nothing regarding that. This is another gap. I always I'm only linked with this functionality, include functionality to inform the user of changes that may affect data protection and privacy. You know why? Because when you have a software update, in a software update, maybe there is some changes. Maybe you are adding new data to be processed, and it's nice that the user will have the notification and say, listen, we didn't collect your IP, but now we need to collect your IP because of this reason. And this is supporting this requirement, is not covering. So for me, I add this link, but just as a support. I'm not claiming that it's covering this essential requirement. So can be reused. So this is the overview. I didn't create 2 different slides because it's very short. You have unnecessary data misuse, you have data minimization as a security objective, and then you have applicability of user notification mechanism, appropriate user notification content. This is from 18001. Again, it's accessory, so it's not the core MIT. The MIT is the new security control that we created. We created with the essential requirement regarding the data minimization in relation with the intended purpose. And this is to clarify the difference also with the GDPR. It's different because it's not about the data controller and so on. It's just about the intended purpose of the product itself. There is also a requirement regarding the default data processing minimization. By default, you need to collect as less as possible information. This is impacting not only general information that the data collected, but also that the product collected, but also is impacting the logging, for example. You don't want to log everything, because if there is a data breach for logging, you may cause a data breach, so you don't log more information that you need, for example. And then there is a new option that is configurable control for optional data processing. This is something that we can use also for logging later. You can see the relation, but here you give the option to the user for the optional processing to opt out for the user. That is a good security control that we added here. Yeah, it's not explicitly mentioned is opt out, but we included and can support the other function later. Again, if you sit down and say, okay, what are the requirements? We all know that this requirement has confidentiality, integrity. You don't apply this control standalone. You need to have process in place. You need to check what you want to protect. So it's not that you encrypt everything. It's not that you have integrity for everything, because when you apply security control, it has a cost that is not only monetary, it can be also performance. And so you need to really understand what is the reason, what are the risks that you are protecting, and what is the right balance. To do that, you need to have data classification, data labeling. You need to manage all the data asset life cycle. You need to have all this process in place. The process part, like we told before, is on PT1, and we will reference to PT1. We will create a requirement that you need to have a risk assessment, and you have the security design, and then we reference to PT1, for example. As not as normative reference, we will put it as an informative, because you are not forced to use PT1. You can use also other way, but you still need to have a similar process in place. And you need to minimize the data that you are stored. You need to dispose when you are not needed. So this is another thing. If you don't need the data, you need to get rid of it. You need to have a mechanism to allow to the user to control permission, to define what is the lifetime of the data, if it's possible. I may give you the chance to use this data for this device for 1 year, and then you need to ask me if I want to renew. But yeah, this is only ideas put together. So and to have a think tank. It's not that we are saying that all these requirements are required. Of course, you can minimize data, and then you have also other technical controls that, apart from encryption and so on, you can also anonymize data, tokenize data. You have technical like differential privacy, and you need to have mechanisms to monitor if there is data to be monitored itself. So I think that I need to review also this line, because the word is cut. So 91. I will have the data. So of course, data minimization is also when you are collecting telemetry data or logging data, and you need to make sure that there is a reason why you are collecting. And you need to minimize the security risk in collecting this type of data. Yeah, so I think that this is important. We have the data quick scan, of course, like verticals. Why? Because we had no ideas, so we were just speaking about how to address this. And of course, the best way possible that you can start with something is to look around, and then to try to define it and to come to a conclusion. And we have a conclusion now with our requirement. But we look that there were requirements like storage isolation, timing analysis, no collection of PII without explicit consent. So here I feel more the GDPR sense. And there is a little bit of fragmentation here. I think that here we need more alignment. In 60443, we have the authorization enforcement for all the user. We have the permission mapping, and then we have the supervisor override and dual approval. To be honest, looking at the 60443, I still think that this aspect can be represented in a better way, but maybe it's because I didn't go deep with the. I don't know what are the latest development here, and I need to look at it. In the IoT world, the data minimization is new. It's a new topic because the GDPR into the IoT world in manufacturing world was supposed to be applied, applicable with the e-privacy regulation that was supposed to. It's 5 years that is under the revision, but was never finalized. We have the e-privacy directive, but it's only for processing electronic data in general. And this is the challenge why we needed to create something from the scratch. And like I say, there is a lot of fragmentation. Topic is new, and we need to understand how to approach it in a more pragmatic way. And the invite is also to find a common baseline together. And we can see if the new requirement that we included needs to be refined. We also try to reach out to the working group 6 on data protection for that, and then to understand how we can refine this topic. We reach this topic here. So we have the survey for data minimization. I will share the link, just a couple of minutes, and then we can go to the next one. I'm sharing the link in the chat. And then in the meanwhile, I'm sharing also the link. Do you have also, Lucia, some question that we can answer, we may answer?
Yes, Angelo, I have been collecting some questions. I'm sorry
Thank you.
that we cannot really reply to all of your questions. They are all good. So I wanted to ask a question about, so imagine you are a product manufacturer of the default category. So how to know if you follow the PT2 standard, so the standard of this deep dive session, or the ENIC 62443-4-2?
Yeah, so you have when you are creating the evaluation report and the test report, you are doing the test report based on a standard. And so it means that you will capture the assessment based on on what is written in the assessment criteria for PT2 or for any other standard. In that way, you can demonstrate that you did your due diligence there. But of course, yeah, from the assessment and the requirement, you need to see that you are aligned.
There is a question from Alexander, if the PT2 standard, so the 4400, will follow the same structure as the EN 18031 in terms of a first conceptual assessment and then separate completeness and sufficiency assessments, and if the conceptual assessment will have the familiar decision tree structure.
Yeah, so like I started at the beginning, so the assessment criteria were not yet defined and agreed between the group. There is the initial feeling to simplify that and maybe not to have, we have only, for now, the few months ago, we had some agreement to have only conceptual assessment and sufficiency assessment. Because of course you need to have all the documentation review that you are doing, and then you need to check that the functionality is implemented. But there was the initial feeling to remove also the decision tree and to simplify, because to be less prescriptive, and we understand that the downside is to have less guidance for the manufacturer, but more flexibility on the requirement itself. But this is still not defined and agreed to be clearly transparent. Yeah.
And there is a follow-up question from Benjamin. In addition, would compliance with the PT2 standard need to be demonstrated via test reports, for example, penetration tests?
No. We don't speak about penetration test or not, but one essential requirement from CRA is that you need to have regular tests and and so on. So you need to define what is the regular test, because you need to demonstrate that you did the test. Maybe it can be penetration test, can be activities, can be somebody can do a vulnerability assessment, that is enough. Somebody can do a scanning or can do fuzzing activity. It really depends from the risk assessment and decision. And so while you are testing that control is there, like brute force protection and so on, you can call it a functional assessment, like you had it in 18031, but testing, a sort of testing, you have to have it for CRA. What is this testing? You need also to define it.
All right. And do you have more time for questions, Angelo? How do you see it?
I think that we can go on this. So I see that we have 32 responses, so it's good. Let's go, because I like that, but we need to cover all the topics. So you're right. We have 1 hour and a half, so let's use it, and I will give also time for answer for questions. So we have the availability. This is you need to make sure that if there is if you have a product, this product is continuing to function. The core function of the product are continuing to work even during and after an incident. The nice example that I like to do always is, okay, you have a thermostat. Maybe there is an incident on the back end, and then you cannot use the thermostat because there is a dependency on the back end. So you expect that your thermostat is still hitting you while there is a cold day for a site. And this is the meaning of this requirement itself. And of course, to reach that, you need to have resiliency implemented and mitigation measure against denial of services and even others. Because even a misconfiguration with a DNS, like we learn with Cloudflare and Amazon, can create a big shutdown in most part of the internet. So I started always with what does it mean incident. So the incident, this is copy and paste from NIST, NIS2. The 2022-25555 is the NIS2. And so this is an incident and is an event that compromises availability, authenticity, integrity, and confidentiality of data stored, transmitted, processed. So this is the same language that we are using into the requirement confidentiality, integrity. And there is a relation there. And what does it mean? That an incident has an impact on the security of the product means that an incident that negatively affects or is capable to negatively affect the ability of a product with digital element to protect availability, authenticity, integrity, and confidentiality. So I put it here because it's just to highlight to you that you need to be, if there is an incident that is compromising your availability, authenticity, integrity, you need to take care and confidentiality of any type, data and function. So this is just to set up the baseline. There is the Annex 2 of CRA that there is the instruction to the user. You need to document the product essential functionality. It's part of the responsibility of your user manual. So it means that what you declare needs to also to be respected in your implementation. So yeah. And this is just as a highlight, because I saw also some of the vertical that there are this as a requirement, but for me this is something that is part of the CRA. We don't need even to mention into the requirement itself. This is the nice diagram with all the nice mind map, and so we have just the degradation as an activity, but of course it's not only the degradation. You can have a simple degradation and full degradation that is not available at all. I was not specific in all the categorization of the threat, but you understand. And we have two security objectives: incident resiliency and incident recovery. We have again, like classic 18031, and to see how the language is similar. So we have, you need to design to mitigate the effect of denial of services. Look, there is a mapping with the mitigation measure against denial of services. We understand already from reading from this that there is something from 18031 that we can inherit it. You need to have on a risk base up-to-date software. So of course, updating, if you have an exploitable vulnerability, updating is one of the way to mitigate the vulnerability, but we don't need to report and to create this. We have already to report secure update into this section because we are already security updates. And we will learn that there is a relation, okay? And then there is a sort of update, sort of a relation when there is a mention of a lack of availability in A and D. And the same for personal data and for financial data. Here, the limitation is again the same. We are not focusing only on personal data and financial data. We are covering also the security configuration, DNS, and so on. Yeah. This is the list of the threat and the list with the security objective, and then we have a list of control. This is a section that was very fresh, to be honest, because this was integrated this morning and also in the presentation this morning. So initially we had only the RLM1 that is coming from 18001 applicability and properties of resiliency mechanism. This is only a way to address the security requirement. But of course, you need to think about also how you recover from an incident. So here we refine the content on a recovery mechanism. And there is some overlap. Looking at this recovery incident, backup can be one of the recovery incidents. So maybe this RLM6 will disappear in the next version. But of course, you need to have also control on the consumption of resources and resource consumption about network and how you prioritize the resource when you have a lack of resource and how you manage the resource. Again, maybe this will be integrated in one, but we still need to go deep into this analysis. But I wanted to report now because this is the status of the standard now as per today. If you think about, if you sit a little bit and say, okay, what are the requirements that you can include? You need to have full safe protection. Of course, if there is a power off, a shutdown, you need to make sure that when this device is restarting in an operational state. And so it means that you need to verify the integrity, you need to have a self-diagnosis and check for log inconsistency, but this is pretty much right. Imagine that your computer is losing your power and then you cannot turn on anymore your laptop, and so it's creating that. So you need to have some recovery mechanism in a fail-safe mode. You need to support the functionality without dependency from remote data processing, thermostat that is not working with the backend. You need to have resistance to denial of service. This is already covered. You can have throttling, rate limiting, resource exhaustion. Redundancy, this is one of the ways. So if you have a critical function, you may have redundancy, load balancing, segregation of isolation, and then concept of least privilege. So this is just to give some ideas also to refine this type of requirement. How is approaching 6443? You have a concurrent session control, talk-to race condition. You need to make sure because that is one of the source of that, of unavailability. You have audit storage capacity. So of course, you cannot store a log forever. You need to have log rotation, other specific control. But again, we are not so specific because, of course, this is very detailed. You need to respond to processing failure, to have recovery mechanism. You have input validation. It's critical, it's good. So I didn't include it in the requirement because we have the attack surface minimization is there. So I didn't want to have a repetition also here. It's clear that you need also a way to the input validation because that is also one of the source of unavailability and exploitation part. You need to audit record right on media, and this is, of course, very specific for this industrial way. Hardware security for public key authentication. There is a lot of emphasis, like you see, on public key authentication. Resource management, control system backup. So here is just mapping with the security objective. And like I said, LLM 3 and 4, 5 and 6 may be subject to refinement in the next section. So that is a little bit late as an outline for now. This is this is the survey part. Just a couple of minutes to give time to people to process this. And so maybe we can have a couple of minutes if there is some questions, Lucia.
Yes, Angelo, I would like to ask you a question from Lillian. Does the availability also applies when tampering has been detected for a device that may have some network functionality in addition to its core functionality? As in, it could remotely be shut down to prevent further issues, or is this requirement that the customer is informed? Is the requirement that the customer is informed?
The requirement is not about the inform, but the requirement is about the protect availability of essential and basic function. So if it's a side function that doesn't impact the product, there is no problem. But if there is a side function or a remote function that is supporting and critical for the essential function, you need to take in consideration to secure that, to not have availability issue. I hope that this answer, so I don't know.
There is also a question from Claudio. Is risk assessment a way to avoid investing in measures that are costly for a product that has no real availability requirement in the intended use?
Yeah, I will suggest you to read the latest guidance from published yesterday from the Commission that says that you cannot use as a justification cost, and they are going also to say that risk transfer is not a valid method to address the risk assessment.
All right, we see a lot of questions in the direction of either the Q&A, the frequently asked questions from the Commission, as some interesting information. I see someone asking about the machinery, very quickly reading, and also this kind of question that as you just said, Angelo, we encourage everyone to try to have a look. I know this guideline is very new from 2 days ago.
70 pages, it took me a lot also, but yeah, for me, I have to read it.
Yes.
They say where it can mention, so maybe you can share it again, Lucia, in the chat. So
I will share it again in the chat, definitely.
But this is also in the slides, so you have also later in the slides the reference link, everything is there. So I see also a lot of participation here, 36, so thank you so much. So this is extremely valuable. And I suggest also to move forward so we can really, I want really to give some time to people to ask questions later. Minimize negative impact. So this is somewhat related to availability. It's not that you can really isolate, because one is focusing on the core function, but this is really to, in general, also to minimize the negative impact. And maybe the question that was before can also fall into this category then, that you need to minimize the negative impact by the default themselves, and then or to the other connected devices on the availability of services provided by other devices. So you don't need to have a side effect for other devices within a network. Imagine a router that doesn't work. Also, all the devices that are connected in the network cannot communicate between each other. And you need to implement mechanisms to reduce this kind of event. So here again, I don't want to go into details within the terminology, but here I just want to report the term and definition that is important. And I wanted to highlight also that the negative impact is also highlighted in the significant cybersecurity risk definition. Yeah, and then we have the recital. That is important. So if the negative impact of the exploitation of potential vulnerability in the product can be severe due to inter alia cybersecurity related functionality that carry significant risk or adverse in terms of its intensity and ability to disrupt, control, or damage a large number. What does it mean? It means that if your product, once is compromised, can compromise a lot of other devices, this is a significant risk. So this is something that you need to consider. And the fact that it has a greater impact, it means that you need to be more diligent to implement a security control. Maybe this can be one of the cases that maybe secure boot is more appropriate. And yeah. Again, here there is a relation between attack. Here we have that you need to make sure that the attack is not propagated between external service and attack in general. You don't need to spread the attack. There is still a degradation of availability of your product and the other product. So this is capturing the limit external impact security objective. And then we have the security objective prevent attack propagation. So let's go into article 3.3d. So as you can see here, the requirement from RED, they don't cover this in 100%. But as I highlighted, is more focusing on the fact that the product do not contain publicly known exploitable vulnerability that may harm the network and its function or misuse. But it's not only about known exploitable vulnerability, so it's a little bit limiting. So this is one of the cases that we needed to expand and say something more compared to RED. And this is clear already from this part. Here, there is also another accessory requirement that we attach, that is monitoring and control network traffic. This essential requirement, this requirement was integrated in 18031 for gateway, router, and whatever is managing traffic data. And we just integrated now in CRA and with an accessory way to support this essential requirement. So here you can find I think that I have a mistake here. What is the mistake? I forgot to include the other security objective, that is prevent attack propagation. So there are two security objectives. I have a note, so I will adjust here. But hopefully I did the mapping correctly. Let's see. So here we have the 18031. Again, to minimize the negative impact on another product, you need to be, if you have secure boot, there is less probability that you are compromised and you are going to compromise others. And maybe this is a functionality that is important for a device that have if they have a significant risk for other devices, it's important that you implement it. So that is the reason why it's there. Then we included the traffic control mechanism, appropriateness, and then network monitoring control. So imagine that you have an attack, a DOS attack. You can monitor that there is a DOS attack, and then you have a traffic control that you can drop the packet that you don't want to hear and listen. And so this is the reason why it's there. And this is protecting also the attack for other devices within your network. Here you have two new added security control, external impact limitation and prevention of attack propagation. To be fully transparent, this is not, these are LM1 and 2. These are still gap on the work that we are doing now, because we need to understand how we can agree on how to define this requirement itself. And I hope in the next week we can agree on how to move forward. But if we sit down and then we can think about it, how we can address this requirement again, you need to manage resources. So you need to have a managed network, computational capability, and storage, rate limiting, CPU. You need to monitor the exhaustion of bases and so on. Error handling. If you have unmanaged exception, if another system is connecting to you, you crash, and then also the system, they crash because they connect to your API. You don't want to do that. So you need to have a good system of error handling. And along with the API, because if you have API, it means that your intended use is that other people will connect to you. And then there you need to be more careful about how you handle exception. And so how other services or devices are using your information. You need to use well-defined protocols with clear error state, isolation and segmentation where applicable. So maybe for critical function, you need to have segmentation for that. And so if the device is affected, you cannot affect also others. You can have also isolation. There are some protection for some device that when or laptop, if you have an endpoint protection, if the endpoint is detecting that you have a malware installed on it, the first things that they do, they isolate you from the connection. So this will avoid that the malware is spread into the network. So this can be also one protection. It's not applicable in all the cases, but this is just an example of how I see this type of control. Less privilege, of course, if you have everything run as root, if somebody is exploiting that functionality, any functionality, even a support function, can become root on your device, and then you are allowing them to enter in your network. There is a fish tank example. There is a fish tank in a casino that was hacked, and attacker, they went from the pivot from the fish tank to the casino network, and so this is not acceptable. Also for this requirement for minimizing negative impact. Input validation magically is here, and so as you can see, is a recurrent thing also for 6403 as a mechanism. Of course, is important. Is extremely important. We just didn't repeat because it's already in attack surface minimization. We have the deterministic output, auditable event. So if you read again, you can see that there is a lot of overlap also with some of the other requirements that we saw before. Yeah, so here the security objective is limited external impact attack, prevent attack propagation, and monitor external impact. And so this is the separation of the security control. You see in red the requirement that we are working on still. So this is in progress, and this is still a red flag that needs to be solved. And we are trying to fix this as soon as possible and to understand how to fill this gap. Yeah, so this is a survey. Let's check if there is some questions. So, and I can share the link into the chat again. Lucia, any questions that is worth it to?
Let me select one or two. So we have a question from Masahiro. How to evaluate negative impact is really minimized?
Then we need to define what does it mean minimization or what is the impact. So, for example, that there is a bomb that is exploding under your house, and one in the water, there is different effect. So it means that that is a really different. It really depends from the risk assessment in general. But repeat again the question because maybe I didn't understand.
How to evaluate that negative impact is really minimized?
Really, with the risk assessment, product intended functionality, because if there is a toothbrush that is not working, has a less impact than a router that is connecting your house, than a router that is connecting industrial facility. And then in that, you can understand what is the tolerance that you can have. So what I'm saying, it depends from intended purpose of your device, intended functionality, and then you need to contextualize, yeah.
All right, and I think there is a question, it's a little bit complex, so I'm not sure if we will have the time, but from Masato, we have a question saying, what can we do if the vulnerability is caused by the specification of the common interface, like the Wi-Fi, which manufacturer and component supplier cannot fix?
Good questions. So if it's not fixed and there is a risk for the society, there is a recall. If there is a risk and there is a competing control that is not impacting the consumer, it can be there. So really, this is not a question that I may answer because this is a market surveillance issue. How they will deal with this when there is.
Thank you, Angelo. I'm trying to catch different kind of questions so that the audience can also have a feeling of what is the kind of feedback that we can give you. We are standardizers, we're focusing on the standards, and the standards will be the translation of the essential requirements of the CRA. So there are some questions that are difficult for us to answer you, and we will defer to different other stakeholder groups. So I hope you understand that.
Yeah. So thank you, Lucia. So you complemented perfectly. Yeah. And this is also in the definition phase. As you can see, if there is a question like this that you can, so there is the commission draft with the question and answer. You can also ask them, and you can see what will be the answer from the commission. Yeah. So I think this is a way to see what is the official position. Okay, so I think that we have also 25 response. So very happy that we are still keeping it up, but I want to progress also the other section, and because I still promise that I want to have some question and answer. If we process this 3 sections, so half an hour, we have half an hour of question and answer. So yeah, let's try to complete that. Okay, so we have now attack surface minimization. I lost my window. We have the attack surface minimization. So I didn't start with the definition because we don't need it here. It's pretty much clear. So we want to mitigate the absence or bypass of a security control that can reduce the impact of this incident, and then we needed to minimize the unnecessary components that are exposed, and this is the reduce attack surface. Magically, we have everything there. So we have the 18,031 that this is covered, and they want to protect the exposed attack surface, and this is similar. The difference then between 18,031 and CRA is that you have here be design, develop, and produce to limit the attack. Here they really cover all the secure software development cycle. But in 18,031, I was focusing only on the effect. So this is also a difference, and so this is the reason why it's a kind of a different mindset. We have reduce attack surface, and again, I think that we have 2 security objectives. I have a 115. I will fix it also this. You you have only one mapping here, but the intention was also to have the other, the reduced impact of an incident. You don't see in this, and I will fix it later, but you know that there is another security objective. Here, as you can see, we reuse limit exposure of services via related interfaces, optional services that needs to be disabled or configured from the user. You need to document the network interfaces. You need to limit the external interfaces, input validation, and you need to document the external sensitive capability of your device, because based on your sensitive capability, you see if they are treating some sensitive information like location and others. The addition that the members from Working Group 9 wanted to highlight was to have an additional requirement more explicit on the fact to not have unneeded software component. This is the addition, but everything stayed the same. Again, there is always the think tank exercise that I like to do, and so I'll give it to you as an exercise to collect some of ideas. Not all they need to be implemented, but it gives you a feeling of what is the direction of the essential requirements, at least from my perspective. And it's pretty much aligned. The only difference here in this slide is that I provided example of from OWASP with attack surface analysis cheat sheet and the excellent work done by also 300-3645, that there is a section on minimize exposed attack surface and also the evaluation methodology. I personally like it a lot. So yeah, I wanted just to reference. If you are not aware, you can also have it a look. How is approaching? Again, access via untrusted network. We already saw it also in other requirements, so it's something that is repeating. Mobile code. So sometimes mobile code is really mobile application code or something similar that is there. These ancillary services can also represent a security issue for your product. Session lock. This is something that 62443 included. Input validation is a really constant here, and of course this is something that we also emphasize. Network segmentation, 62443, there is a lot of zoning, compartmentalization, segmentation is not a case that we have this requirement here, and list functionality is what we call the no unneeded software component, and is the same way, and maybe it's better to put list functionality to have the same language, and we will take in consideration that. This is the mapping with the reduced attack surface, and so this is all the requirements that we have into this security objective. And you can see that mostly is coming from 18.001, of course adapted, and with only one requirement more, that is JEC 12. So we have the survey, Jay. I will just share the link again. And you can also have this is the next one I shared in the chat. Share just a couple of minutes if we have some questions, so we can give some time.
We have a question from Christopher. That what about protocols that are available in secure and insecure versions, but where the secure version is not yet the state of the art? Must the secure version always be offered, even if there is no risk to the operational environment because it is using protected networks? Examples, field bus protocols such as CIP security and Profinet clustering.
Yeah, you can use the most secure protocol, but if it's not used, it means that you are doing for nobody. Nobody will use your product, so you will not be on the market. Yeah, so the fact that the protocol is insecure doesn't mean that you cannot go on that. So we need just to wait that the state of the art and will improve for a certain sector. Yeah.
Then we have a question from Steve. Please clarify the process requirements versus the stateable product requirements. A secure design process must have evidence.
Yeah, so we are. This is more question for PT1, and this is more, of course. You are all aware that for having the assessment, you have also module H and module B plus C, module A, self-assessment, and so there is always the process component, and yeah. And can you repeat the question just to rationalize if I understood correctly?
Yes. Please clarify the process requirements versus the stateable product requirements. A secure design process must have evidence.
Yeah, so you need to have the secure software development lifecycle in place as a process. You need to have, for data minimization, you need to have data classification, for example, is a process requirement. You need to have policy in place. You need to have accountability in place and so on. When we speak about the product requirement, we speak about the product capability requirement. So the fact that you have an access control implemented is different that you have the personnel that can access to that. And so this is an aspect that is from an organizational perspective and an aspect that is product related. But security is both. You cannot really take it in isolation. Yeah. And I think that we reached 28 responses also now, so I'm very surprised. So I think that we can also move on the next one. And so we are proceeding very well to cover this part. Logging and monitoring. Reduce an impact of an incident. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we need to cover the K. So again, the attack surface minimization was easy, and we need to have also here, we had some discussion, and we will see that we address with one requirement. Here I just collected the word incident, impact on security. This is the same slide that I presented previously, minimize negative impact. I will not go into details, but I included here just as a definition. For example, here I included the reporting obligation, and I just highlighted what is the definition of negative impact. And again, it's everything that is impacting availability, authenticity, integrity, and confidentiality of sensitive or important data or functions. So when we are thinking about the requirement in CRA here, we need to think about data and function also. Here we have the two security objective, reduce impact of an incident and reduce attack surface. And you need to bypass, or you need to have reduce the unnecessary attack surface. But I think that here I opened the wrong tree. It's not reduce attack surface. We need to only reduce impact of an incident. So when I did the screenshot, I forgot to close unnecessary, because unnecessary we covered before, and they are all regarding linked to the concept of mitigation. Yeah. Magic, we don't have anything regarding hardening, and nothing that we can link with that. So we created a new requirements. Here you need to, just as a note, you need to have any security requirement that can have a reduced privilege escalation, lateral movement, malware installation, and of course, you don't want to be part of a DOS attack, botnet, for example, like the Mirai botnet attack, and injection exploit. So Of course, one way to have a structured classification of this common attack pattern is given by the CAPET, Common Attack Pattern Enumeration Classification, and I included also the link if you want to have a look. Like I said, 18001, there is no mapping. And we have the Jack 11, and we created a requirement exploit mitigation mechanism that is containing everything. Everything what? It's a little bit of a one fit all because we included there, we didn't include there explicitly, but this was the reasoning. So if you sit together and say, okay, which are the mitigation technique? When you think about, there are different level of mitigation technique that you can have. Technical, that is like ISLR, DEP, control flow integrity, sandboxing, assigned software execution policy. Then you have, again, this is also linked a little bit with the questions before, because of course you have also, for this specific control, you can have also design and development mitigation technique. You can have a concept of secure by default. It's a process requirement. You need to have a due diligence in place, documentation in place that you did your own due diligence with the risk assessment, with the implementation of the right security control. You have documentation of functionalities, user manual in place, and so on. And then you have memory safety management in general and vulnerability assessment that, of course, is part of a process part. At the end, you use a tool to scan your product, but you need to handle the vulnerability assessment as a process. And then you have operational strategic, that you have patch management, that you can have, you need to disable unnecessary interface and so on. And this is the main part. Just as a feedback, Lucia, the connection is fluent, or you see problem or glitches?
From my side, seems perfect. I hope for the rest of the attendees is also well.
Yeah, no, because I think that was the video a little bit stopped. So this is the reason why. Thank you so much for confirming. And we have the operational and strategic. So it means that you have also the personal that will disable unnecessary interfaces, access control, list privilege, and so on. Again, here I put some useful reference with the guidelines for securing Internet of Things, so you can have a look. And the most dangerous software weaknesses, and again from Mitre, and this is a good reference that I also use it regularly. Again, how 62443 is approaching it. You need to have protection from malicious code, and then software integrity, deterministic output, error handling. Again, error handling, RKC is, we already saw it before, so, and there is a little bit of repetition, but it's clear because there is a relation between each of these essential requirement. Of course, resource management, denial of service protection, network configuration settings, list functionality, and component reset. So, of course, this is also a kind of important activities that you need to have there. So this is just that we had in this requirement is just we have exploitation mitigation mechanism, and what we described there is really that you need to have in general language ISLR or DEP or other, this kind of mechanism needs to be in place to mitigate different levels of attack from your product. It's a kind of borderline requirement because, to be honest, the reduction of impact of incident for me and hardening for me is a defense in depth principle. You need to have a layered approach. You cannot have one control and then you solve everything. You need to have least privilege, then you have a hardening that you need to secure your interface, and so on and so on. And then it's not only a single control that you can apply. So this is the reason why we decided to integrate in one principle, in one requirements, and then give to the manufacturer the responsibility to give to have the right level of granularity compared to their own case. We have another survey. I'm sharing to the chat. We are almost reaching the end, and so just going a little bit faster to give time for questions and then have the interaction section. So just a couple of minutes to see if we have some feedback here. Any question, Lucia, that we can highlight?
I would like to select one in particular in the current draft of the PD2 standard, so this standard.
Yeah.
We discuss assets in many clauses, but the guidance on what should be considered an asset is limited. Is the expectation that this will be better defined in the PT2 standard eventually or defined elsewhere?
Yeah, so it was a conscious decision to have asset in a generic way, because when you protect something, it's for sure an asset. An asset is defined now in the vocabulary into the -1 -1, yeah. And we have a definition there of asset, anything that has a value for the manufacturer, for the entity. So this is a definition. But defining what is an asset is a responsibility of the manufacturer when there is the risk assessment process, and this will be defined it is defined in PT1. So PT2 will not define what is an asset, will not go there. So we rely on the vocabulary that is there and not change, and on PT1 with the risk assessment, asset enumeration, and so on. Yeah. And it's really good that I see that there is 27 response, and so really, I see a good feeling of responses here. Okay, so we need to have a last mile, because really I want to give some time to people to ask questions, and then of course also to collect this extremely important information from all of you in writing, because then it's easy to collect, copy and paste, put in a single presentation and share with all of you. We have a monitoring and logging, and this is pretty much standard. And so you need to record and monitoring relevant internal activity. Here, the keyword is also internal, because we had also internal discussion when we were writing this requirement, including the access and modification of data services. And then we had a magical opt-out mechanism for users. So it means and here there was also some interpretation that we needed to have, and then we had the opt-out for recording, for the logging part, and for the monitoring part. So this is the part, the hook with the logging. So I just collected the definition, because sometimes we spend also in meeting a lot of time in different opinion on what is logging, what is monitoring, what is alerting, what is notification, because there is sometimes notification and monitoring are the same. In 62443 there is also some linking between them, monitoring and alerting and notification. There is some verticals that they included everything in the definition of logging. So logging is everything. And I would like to stick with what is written by the state of the art, like 27001, at least as a concept. And this is the reason why I copy and paste the definition from 27001, and then I copy and paste the definition of alert, like in the reference for the EBA document from the European Commission, just to share where is our starting point. And then one of the part that I like also from the NIST 8259A is about how they define the cybersecurity state awareness in general for the IoT, and of course how they use the concept of notification and logging here, and I like also the mapping that they have with the IoT reference example, and how they link with the concept of monitoring. Okay, So, for example, I use this also to navigate the mapping with the other standard, and this was very useful to me. And I hope also for you, this is the reason why I included in the slide. We are again on the monitoring logging with the tree, with the threats and with the leaf of the security objective. So you have a problem when you don't record an event, security relevant activities. So if you need to monitor for unauthorized access, so you need to save it somewhere. And you need to have auditability enabled, because otherwise you don't save the history. Because it's not only about monitoring and give real-time feedback, but it's also to create a trail of evidence. And of course, if you have a recording event and you don't analyze, there is a problem also there. And then you have the data disclosure. It means that, of course, log when you are saving, they need to be protected from, they need to be protected at least from integrity, but also for confidentiality. Confidentiality if they include also sensitive data, and they may. And then we need to focus on also minimization, to minimize that the data that you are saving are the one that are supporting a functionality or an intended purpose of the product. So monitoring performance, monitoring some, but you cannot save name and surname because you are monitoring the performance of a product. So it should be reasonable. We have in 18031, we have the mapping. You need to monitor and control the network. Again, this is not for internal activities, so this is external, but we included here just to link with the monitoring terms. So it's a supporting requirement. So we don't intend to have that as a main requirement. But log internal activity that can have an impact on data protection and privacy, and log internal impact that can have impact on financial and monetary data is 100% fit for the purpose. Of course, without taking the last part of the sentence on data protection and privacy and financial monitoring. So you can see that at least for logging, everything is there. Everything is integrated. And so what we did is to just, I lost the, what we did is just to integrate the monitoring here. This is the mapping of the threat and security objective. This is just as a reference. You have here the mapping with the 18031 and the logging things. So we have mostly 18031, and I mark as new the one that are not there. For example, exclude sensitive personal information. We need to minimize the data information, making sure that they don't include personal information when it's not required. And then, of course, to satisfy the opt-out mechanism, we have the disable of logging, but it's not disable of logging entirely. So you can also disable event. This is also a requirement that we include in data minimization. So we may reuse also that concept, because you may give a possibility to the user to say, I don't want you to log my name or my surname into the device, and then you can opt out, and then you can even tell to the device, okay, save my name as with this ID or and so on. So I think that this may be a creative way to solve this. Then we have the think tank exercise, like always. So when I think about this, you need to record all the relevant change and events. You need to have a detailed access log for authentication. Monitoring of service status, event, network behavior. Not all is required, but this is just for starting a think tank. And so, okay, let's have the ball rolling and have some ideas on what is considered essential and minimal. You have you need to reduce the risk to leak the sensitive data, so you need to minimize the data that you are collecting. You need to allow for integrity and authenticity for the data, for the logging, for the auditability principle. You need to have opt-out mechanism for logging, monitoring, and notification where appropriate, and so on. So I will not go into details for each one, but you have also the list of reference that I went through, and so and can maybe useful also for you if you are interested to go deeper. We have also how 62443 approach. So you have a system user notification. It's a general notification that they have. And my idea was also to approach it like that also in our general standard. But for now, like I said, we are thinking about how to address that. And if it's appropriate even for a horizontal standard. We have auditable events, opt-out mechanism for authorized user, timestamp. As I see quickly questions regarding the timestamp. So 62443 is including. We didn't include specifically as a requirement with this emphasis. Software integrity information, you need to record monitoring the software integrity, authenticity of software, and notification for integrity violation. This is a kind of repetition of requirement that we already saw. It's just to support this essential requirement. This is an overview of the logging and monitoring, and so requirement that we are in the standard today. And you can notice what are the new one. Exclude sensitive personal information, monitoring irrelevant information, disabling logging, and disabling monitoring. These are new. And of course, all the content was being adapted. So let's go with the log and sharing the link into the chat. One question, and then we can go to the last requirement that we can have some questions. Lucia, did you find something interesting with the questions?
Yes, sorry, I could not unmute myself somehow. So there is a question about how to approach log requirements if a device has not clock and RTC capability.
Yeah, so I think that the clock and so on, and the timestamp is important to quantify where is there, but of course you need to have a vertical consideration that of course this cannot be captured in a horizontal standard. This is really specific case. Because I understand timestamp is important, and if you cannot do the synchronization with the clock and so on and guarantee that the time is correct, maybe that information will become useless. But yeah, this is a specific case that we are not covering. And I see that also the answer is still high, so really, again, thank you. And very interesting if there is something missing, so this will be something that I will integrate. So and look in details, and this will be useful for all the PT2 members and working group 9 to have a look at. Okay, so shall we do the last round with the last requirement? Because I would love also to spend also more time on all the slides, but yeah, I think that is a lot of content. So I can imagine that is also overwhelming for the audience. But thank you for resisting until the end. So we have the data deletion. It will be fast here. So you need to provide a way to securely and easily remove data on permanent basis. And of course, there is a way for data also to be transmitted. Imagine when you have your phone that you need to have a new phone, and then you have iCloud or other system to say restore all the configuration and so on. That needs to happen in a secure way. Or this can happen with any devices when you are buying a new one that you want to transfer the location. So this is the reason why there is the second part. And then there is the the fact that the deletion needs to be done in a secure manner. So here I imagine that the scope is more for transfer of ownership, disposal, third-party device maintenance, and this is what I can imagine this requirement can be useful for. And of course, it's important also when you have a device with multiple users. Imagine that you are renting a car, there is an infotainment system, and then you connect with your phone, has your number, and then when you finish your rent, you want to delete that. That has happened to me. Sometimes it's even complicated to do that on certain infotainment system. Is a pain even for the rental car. And then we have the deletion of a functionality that, of course, can represent also a potential attack vector, because if not properly done or if not properly secure, you can also cause unavailability of a device, because imagine that it is exposed the function to delete everything, and then you create a damage for the user of the device itself. I like here again the definition on 300.3.645 about easily. So you need to have a minimum step that are required to complete that action that involve minimal complexity, because minimize availability, easily, these are all things that are difficult to quantify. What does it mean easy? Or what does it mean minimize the availability? So this is really about what is the product, what is the intended use of the product, if the audience of if the user of the product is a trained person or not. It's all relative, and this you capture in a risk assessment when you are doing your reasoning. And then you have the deletion. I like the definition from 31,700 from that is a process, but that you delete personally identifiable information. But the scope of this requirement is not only personally identifiable information, but is all data and settings also. Yeah. So we have the diagram with the two with the secure data deletion is just one, but I show also the factory reset because there can be some link between the two functions. And in red there is a mapping, yeah, but unfortunately it's only covering the stored personal data. We made it generic, and we cover also the scope of the CRA, and so that is the point. And here again, I like the 300.3.645, the latest version, the provision 5.11 make it easy for the user to delete user data. I like it how that section was done. So kudos for that standard. And of course, we don't reinvent the wheel. We are making sure that we are aligned also in the language, and like 18,031 did, because they already start from 300.3.645, 62443. As you can see here, there is other requirements, data in transit and tampering. These are already covered by the other essential requirements. We will not repeat that here. And we will focus on the secure objective, secure data deletion. You have the red requirement, that is applicability of data deletion, and then we created new security control to confidentiality, confidential export of user data or configuration data, integrity protection for exported data, and authenticity of communication partner for exported data. Just as a clarity, the last one may be dropped, DLM4, because we have already SCM. We want to reduce as less as possible the overlap and overlap between requirements. But we will see what the members will find more appropriate, what the other colleagues. And think tank exercise. So you need to provide a way to delete data stored also in the RDPS and associated services, not only to the device itself. It's also to the associated services and so on. Here, 18,031, the focus was only on the device itself. So this is the reason why when you're having a standard, you need also to look at the perspective of the standard itself when you are implementing the security control. CRA is covering all the product with digital element. You need to have a robust erasure mechanism. Everybody's aware about cryptographic erasure. You can encrypt, throw the key, that's it, that is an erasure. Or you can multipass, you can overwrite the area multiple times. You can have zeroization, you can write zero on all the area of memory. You can have all techniques. We will not create a standard to create all this catalog of details. We will just stop at the concept, and then you need to know how to implement it based on your case and what is more appropriate. You need to have a well-documented way to erase data on permanent basis, and because the user needs to be aware how to do it. Offer a way to the user to back up information and transfer to another product if applicable. You need to communicate the scope of the deletion and the effect. Make sure that only authorized user can proceed into permanent deletion of data and settings. And again, here I like to reference to other standard, and so I just put some example of reference and how is approaching here. You can see that the idea is to erase a shared memory and erase, and you need to check that the erasing happened. So this is the erasing verification. User cryptography, one of the way, and system backup and recovery reconstitution. So maybe this needs to be refined also from 62443, but let's see. As I said, the requirements in red, so all these are under the analysis still. We have content here is there, and while we are going through the HAS, the preliminary HAS assessment, we will check what makes sense, what needs to be kept, and what needs to be integrated. Yeah. And this was the latest requirement. We can wait for the input here of the last survey, and we can open the floor for some questions, I guess.
That's great, Angelo. And then I propose let's have a look at the patient hands that have been waiting. Luckily, it's virtual hands and not real hands because they would be very
Like
tired.
Yeah.
And we can invite then Mr. Pascal Bornel to share his question. So I will allow him to talk, and he's able now to speak normally. Okay, maybe it's not available right now. We can go to the next one. Gatien Bootstran, I'm sorry about the pronunciation. I will allow you to talk if you still want to share your question. Okay, maybe these one are all very old hands, I am afraid. Okay, so Mr. Masahiro, are you still having some questions?
No, it's okay.
All right, super happy then that we answered your question.
Thank you.
Then we have also Yasuhiro. I will also give you the permission to talk. If you want to share your question with us, please be welcome.
Sorry, I have no question. Thank you.
Okay, super great that the question was replied already. Then Mr. Christopher Tebe, do you still have any question?
Oh no, sorry, this must be a mistake. I didn't.
No problem. And we have Igor. Is this a new hand?
I didn't hear, but I got the permission. So yes, I have a question. If you can hear me.
Yes, we hear you perfectly.
Okay. So what if the product contains hardware part, like for example MCU with detected vulnerability? Like, can the product still be introduced onto the market? Is it
Yeah, so I think that this is a part. So if the MCU has a vulnerability, you have taken this component from another vendor that is falling under the critical maybe components, and so they have their own conformity assessment. So you need to notify and work with the other vendor and make sure that you are not going on the market with a vulnerable product, but maybe it's not exploitable. It's vulnerable, but not exploitable. If it's exploitable, you cannot go on the market by law.
Okay, because I mean strictly about the readout protection in the MCUs. Like this is
Maybe you
not
need,
possible.
yeah, you need the physical access to do that. Maybe you have some compensating control. Maybe it's not scaling. Maybe it's not impacting a lot of devices. And this is the game of risk assessment that you need to do to understand if it's exploitable even under a practical condition. Maybe it's not exploitable under a practical condition, and you are okay.
Like the biggest issue with this is that you can read out the source code and later you have the access after you decompile it. And that's why I ask, because in this kind of case, like you can like have the access to the source code. So you when there is no like when you can protect from like the tampering the device, is it okay to put your the device onto the market? Because the exploit like can.
But are we speaking about a toothbrush? Are we speaking about net router? Are we speaking about? This is the reason why your question needs to be contextualized by a specific case, because for me, I don't care if it's a toothbrush.
Okay, no. I mean this, for example, the critical class, the highest class. In this kind of case, you can get the source code.
Yeah, and the fact that what is the risk to get the source code? Because in open source you have the source code there.
Yes, like the risk is in open source you have much more people who work on the code, and
Yeah.
in closed source it's I'm afraid that when you get the source code you can find the vulnerabilities easier because you can analyze it.
This is security by obscurity that is not acceptable.
Okay. So in general, like if the hardware have detected vulnerability, for example, you can like omit the readout protection of the MCU. It's like still okay to operate on the market as long as you have like other protection, like for example the integrity check, the secure boot, and things like that.
Yeah, so if you have a secure boot, I think that you are already in a different level of categories, because it's difficult for a malware to interject and to be injected there. So I think that is already a maturity that is very high.
In the meantime, I want to invite the colleagues that are given the floor for speaking to please keep your question very much to the point as much as you can, because we would like to give the opportunity also to others. And also, if you saw that your question was typed in the Q&A box, but we didn't manage to give you an answer, and you would still like to raise your hand, please go ahead, and we will try to see. So I think the next one I will allow to speak. The next one in the queue. So now Mr. Kirti is, or Mrs. I'm so sorry. Okay, and I will go to the next speaker, then is Florian Krach. If you are speaking, we can't hear you. All right, then we will move on to the next one, Deepansu Trivedi.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, I just have a short question. Are there any chances of IEC 62443 becoming horizontal or vertical harmonized standards, and that can be used for maybe for the class 1, class 2, or default category of the products?
I would like to answer that question because we have had already a webinar about this topic. So I will put the link of the webinar in the chat, and hopefully there you will have a longer reply to your question. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
The next one is Jared.
Hello. Yeah, I just have I think more confirmation than direct question, but you mentioned that the applicability aspects of 18031 are being kind of pulled out in its usage here for CRA. We use those for the radio equipment directive efforts, earlier this year, or I guess last year now. I just wanted to confirm that that's the case, that the applicability is getting pulled out in favor of the risk assessment process directly.
Yeah, so I think that there is two levels of applicability. The applicability that is in 62443, that is when a device is applicable. For example, if there is a Wi-Fi requirement, you have only if you have that interface, and then that is applicability. Then the applicability that we had in 18031 was more to guide also the risk assessment, the selection of controls, and so on. And the idea was to abstract and to not have the applicability of 18031 and to refer to the risk assessment. This is the approach that we have now.
Okay.
But we will still keep the applicability from 62443 similar, that if a requirement can be bounded, we will try to bound it. If you have authentication for human authentication is not machine to machine, we can say applicable only if you have human authentication, something like that.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
The next person is Deepanshu. Again, let's see if we can manage.
Yeah, I just have another question because I'm seeing that there has been a lot of alignment of cybersecurity requirements with 18031. How about other standards? Means even for the default category of the products, sometimes 18031 is very complicated. So can they suffice, especially for default category, can they suffice with showing the evidence to directly to these requirements?
I think that this is more a question from verticals and how to approach that, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that is better to check in one of the vertical workshop and deal with them. So because
I will add a link of one of our webinars on one of the verticals, and then hopefully that brings already some answers. I will put it in the chat as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you as well for your question. Then the next, we will see if Florian can manage to speak. Hello.
Hello, hope it's working now.
It's working.
Okay. You often emphasize the importance of the risk assessment. Are there some documents that recommend a specific methodology of the assessment?
So there is no guidance. So there is the guidance that we have is PT1, is the horizontal requirement, and this is the reference that we have. But if you want a more practical guidance, maybe in the future there will be from the Commission more specific guidance.
Okay.
But for now, you can use any methods because so we are not linking to any methodology.
Okay, thank you.
I think we will manage to get a couple of more questions. So from Flavio, that's the next one, and probably that will be the final one.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you very much. So we are making a risk assessment, but when we use 18031, it was easier because we could follow sections, requirements. But with the CRA, it feels different. I'm afraid I might forget some asset. There is a kind of list of assets and function that we have to use in the risk assessment. Thank you.
Yeah, so there is still a PT1, but there is no list of concrete assets that you can use. There will be some guidance, but yeah, I understand that 18,031 was more prescriptive, but was more prescriptive because 18,031 was for the presumption of conformity. So the aim was to be cited in the official journal. Things that PT2 is an harmonized standard, but doesn't mean to provide presumption of conformity just because it's too broad. And this is the reason why we want to simplify, but I understand your concept and concern. So it was more guided the approach, but nothing is stopping you to use that approach.
Okay, thank you.
Angelo, is there any final remark you would like to bring?
Maybe I can just say I shared in the chat that there will be a post workshop survey, and so this is also to understand if there are other questions and to improve in the future. And this is I shared in the chat, and then all these report will be made available. The idea is that the poll and the survey will be open until 15 of March. And then we collect and we will publish all the information later, at least the final collection of data. The presentation that you will have, that is this one, you will have an annex. In this annex, you have the mapping with the security objective and with the requirements that you can have. I will not go now because it's just to have it as a reference. Some reference of some standard that we will look at, and the outline of the PT2 will be also provided as it is now to have it as a reference itself. So, and that is closing the topic. So do you want to add something more, Lucia?
Thank you very much, Angelo. That was great. And we do want to emphasize that it was never the expectation that you were going to understand fully everything today. This is a sneak peek on the work we are doing, and we hope that when the public inquiry will open in the next coming months, then you will have more elements to understand more, and you can also provide comments via the public inquiry. Also, a big disclaimer to be made. We can't afford to answer all of your questions by email. So maybe sometimes you will find yourself contacting Angelo or myself or someone else and finding no response from our side. That is unfortunately normal, because if all of the 500 participants are reaching out to us, we won't be able to reply. So just to set a little bit the expectation, we are under a lot of time pressure for the work on the standards, so that the time we have for Q&As on an individual level is very, very low. So that's, I hope you understand that. And we will upload then everything you saw today, plus the questions that we managed to have at the Q&A. We will put them in the website, and we hope to hear from you soon in our next events and in the public inquiry. Before you leave, I would like to invite you to a very quick poll to see what you thought of the session before you leave. And with that, we would like to say thank you. Angelo, any final words before we leave?
No, it was an intense session, a lot of information, and so I see a lot of people are still connected. So I think thank you so much, and thank you for the patience, and looking forward for the input that we can use on our to improve our standard moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, and have a nice rest of the day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.